Hello, all the various forms of people out there in the world. This is episode 86 of the Lookout Sir Warhammer 40,000 podcast. My name is Dan, and it's that bit at the beginning of the show where I introduce my good buddy, Phil. How is it going, Philip?
Very good, Dan. Very good indeed. How are you, though? I never ask you. I'm always so rude. How are you, Dan?
Well, you know, in a way, now that you have made that abundantly clear to me, I actually now am actually quite concerned about just how rude you are. So, I'm overcome with a sense of, I don't know, just a sense of all of a sudden awareness where I'm like, oh, actually, Phil, yeah, we've done 86 episodes and you've never once asked how I'm doing.
Well, I think it's normally because I'll say a little bit and then you'll interrupt me and just talk over me and tell everyone how you're doing anyway. So maybe that's how it goes.
I don't know if I outwardly express how I'm doing. I just more give an impression towards my general, state of mind through the medium of whatever it is that I say. But no, in the general sense, mate, no, doing very well, actually. I think, all is treating me well at the moment. The hobby side of things is exciting, and we're going to talk about that in the general sense today, which is kind of fun. We're going to do a bit of a general hobby catch-up because, it's not all that often that we take the time to update our audience on what we're up to. But what actually is the core content of this episode, Phil? If it even is the core content, it's just one of the themes, I suppose.
One of the two things we're doing, as Dan has already said, we're going to be talking about general hobby chit-chats, which will be fantastic. The other thing we're going to be talking about is a look through all the White Dwarf Index Astartes and the brand spanking new Index Hereticus, which talks about the Fallen. And mostly there's a bit of a controversy around it, so we thought we'd address it and have a look at it, but not just look at that in isolation. I'm forcing Dan to look back at the other, I think, 3 Index Astartes that White Dwarf have done over the last few months. Sorry, Dan, it's happening.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. At first, I was incredibly, underwhelmed by the proposition. But when you told me that they are actually match play rules, I was slightly more amused because I was like, well, all right, fair enough. That kind of speaks to my, inner power gamer. Unless, exactly. Of course, you were lying to me, Phil.
No, they really are. And the man who claims to collect all the rules, these are missing from your collection.
Well, that is true. That is absolutely true. The White Dwarf rules exist in a different stratosphere, in my opinion. Much like this week's 5-star review.
Peter!
Oh, hello,
What are
Dad.
you doing in here, son?
Oh, I'm
What
just...
have I told you about wasting your time with these little plastic figurines?
It's not a waste of time, I like it.
How dare you talk back to me, Peter? It's about time you grew up.
I don't want to grow up. Oh, man, maybe there's something on the radio. Yeah, this is nicer.
Peter!
What's that?
That's right, it's me, the ghost of a award-winning TV and radio presenter, Jeremy Beadle.
Jeremy Beadle?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Now let me tell you here, Sonny, my dad was always telling me to grow up, and I never did. And look how successful I was. So ignore him, Peter, and keep playing with that little plastic crack. And while you're at it, listen to the Lookout Sir podcast, which right now, it's time for the 5-star review.
Wow, thanks, Jeremy.
Who are you talking to with there, son?
Jeremy Beadle.
What? No!
This week's 5-star review comes from where, Phil?
Apple Podcasts of Great Britain.
That is 100% accurate, Phil. One of these days, you're going to get it wrong again. I need to change up the pattern.
Just need to change up where the reviews are coming from, which isn't really your fault. That's down to our listeners. So,
well, it is my fault in a way, Phil, because I obviously hugely contribute to the, content that we output here on the Lookout Sir Warhammer 40,000 podcast. And obviously, through doing so, only predominantly attract a UK audience, seemingly. I hold myself accountable for not being very likable by, others.
That's true. I mean, I did get today on the Instagram a 5-star review personally sent to us because he listens to us on Spotify and they don't do reviews. So he's just sent it direct. Does that count?
To you specifically?
No, to the Lookout's Instagram account.
Oh, that's very exciting. What a lovely thing to do. I mean, many people listen to us on Spotify. That's fair to say. It's actually probably our most successful, delivery platform, which is lovely. Anyway, we're going to talk about a 5-star review, Phil, from Apple Podcasts of Great Britain. And it comes from someone called hazicles. Hazicles, I believe, is how we are going to pronounce this, because it sort of sounds like it's going to say hazard, but it ends in ecles or isles. So yes,
dangerous Roman by any chance? Potentially.
I mean, in a way, though, Phil, weren't they all back in the day anyway? Depending, I suppose, on your perspective, Sure. But what did the Romans ever do for us, Phil?
Exactly.
Except the roads and the irrigation, world peace.
So it's a reference I actually get this time.
Exactly. There you go. See, every now and again, 1 in 10, it can happen. But this review is not 1 in 10. It is 5 out of 5, as is a prerequisite, Phil, of a 5-star review. And it reads haiku. And I'm not necessarily super knowledgeable on how you're supposed to deliver a haiku. In fact, Phil, I don't even know what it is.
Does he think your name is called Ku and he's just saying hello?
Oh, haiku. Yes, potentially. I mean, that would be quite a mistake. No, it's fine, mate. I understand. But no, I obviously know what a haiku is. I just never necessarily know what makes it a haiku. I think it's like number of syllables or something, isn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. All right, well, I'm going to read it, and then we'll see if you and I come any closer to understanding the construct of a haiku. So, haiku, 5 stars. I like this a lot. It is informative. And I like the rambling. And that is a haiku. So there you go. What I did there is he wrote, at different points he had capital letters, although admittedly I was a capital letter in some instance, so maybe that doesn't actually work in that respect. But I kind of use those as the breakers to try and, form what I assumed a haiku should sound like. Keep up the good work, lads. Harry from Durham. There we go. Harry from Durham with his 5-star reviews. Thank you very much, Harry from Durham. I apologize if neither myself nor Phil, contain or possess the intellectual might to fully appreciate and understand the haiku construct. But it is appreciated that you were so kind to give us a 5-star review and to do so in the form of a haiku. I hope that in your wildest dreams when you wrote that, this delivery of said, method of poetry or whatever a haiku is, lived up to your wild expectations when you put it down there. But rather than just me saying that, here's Phil.
Well, Hazard Harry, as I'm now going to call you, thank you very much. You did an excellent job at that haiku, even though we're not 100% sure how they're constructed. I know there's a certain number of syllables or something per line that they've got to match, but well done. They're not easy to do. I know that for sure. Maybe someone else out there could leave us a 5-star review and in doing so explain exactly what makes a haiku in the form of a haiku as well. That would be doubly impressive. So
a haiku within a haiku, that would be utterly incredible.
Exactly. But the challenge is out there for anyone that wants to do it, by all means. And again, Hazard Harry, thank you very much for that fantastic haiku of a review.
That was just a rhyme, Phil. You're a poet and you didn't even know it. Hey?
No, the worst kind of poetry when it just rhymes.
Or speaking rhymes all the times.
Is this going to go on all episode?
No, I can't keep that up all episode. It's not gonna work. Anyway, there you go. Yeah, no, thank you so much for that 5-star review. It was obviously hugely appreciated. And if you would like to be like Hazard Harry, go on to the interwebs or just message us directly. With reference to a 5-star review. Although please don't just message us directly, because there's no collateral value in that whatsoever, other than obviously the heartwarming sentiment of you being nice to us, which, obviously is appreciated. It's not quite as appreciated when it is outwardly benefiting us. That's what we love the most, right, Phil?
It's all about the clout, as those cool kids say.
Do they say that? Is that what the cool kids say?
No, I think it's the old... not quite boomers, but middling millennials like us.
Like us. Are you a millennial, Phil?
I only just, apparently.
I don't know, mate. I
feel like 1980 apparently is the starting point of millennials. I'm quite upset about it, actually.
You're not too fond of that. You wanted to be a Gen Z or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's much cooler.
I mean, it does sound cool, right? Like Lord Zed from Power Rangers. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, there we go. What are we going to do next, Phil? We're going to do talking about the Space Marine thing, or we're going to go into the hobby thing?
Let's save the hobby for last.
Hobby for last. All right, fine. So the next thing is going to be us talking about Space Marines. But before that, transitional noise. Woo! Hello again, everyone. It's almost like you just heard us, transition to this. Thus is the format. It's like we hadn't gone away at all, but here we are again in a segment that is going to be us talking about the various Space Marines, Index Astartes type things that are found within the pages of various White Dwarfs. Noting from the outset that I myself have not got possession of these White Dwarf issues, so I'm very much, in the grip of Phil and his storytelling prowess. There you go. Words. How's it going, Phil?
Well, very good. It'll be one of the most classic episodes, as I think one reader had said, listener had said, it was one person read something to the other person. That's what this segment will all be about. Huzzah.
Exactly. I mean, not that we want to let people in on our dastardly ways, but Phil did photograph pages so as I would have a frame of reference. So
you could see the pretty pictures.
Exactly. But I will will go out of my way to purchase these issues in the future so as to scrub clean my terrible ways.
No, exactly. And we're going to start off with issue 1. No, not even 1. Issue 458. Issue one. Let's harken back the dust, blow it off as it falls to pieces because it's that rare. No, issue. I thought it was going to be 1-4, but no, it's 458 with my favourite cover ever with the tomb keepers on it and the tiny acolyte men carrying books.
Lovely
which
times.
I posted about ages ago on my Instagram. Hashtag chapter serfs or codex serfs, as I constantly go on about them.
Indeed. I mean, what's quite interesting there as well, Phil, is that introduction there of the tomb keepers in some ways kind of aligns with your statements about old issues of White Dwarf and or books in general. Kind of worked as a segue because tomb keepers would imply they're looking after old stuff, much like an issue 1 of White Dwarf. Maybe that's within their tomb. Who could say?
Well, I think that is sort of what they do. But the background of a tomb keeper.
Also, it's not tomb, is it? It's tome. That's why that is even more relevant.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
How awful of me to have got it wrong. Tome keepers as opposed to tomb keepers, because they're not tomb raiders. They are tome raiders, probably from tombs.
Possibly. That would explain in even more detail why they've got a bunch of serfs running around with various tomes, wouldn't it? You see, they're just always just collecting them tomes, looking at them books. Come on now, more books.
Exactly.
They're just really, really angry librarians, which would be more funny if librarians weren't already things in Warhammer.
Exactly. That's true. Yeah. So this is, as far as I'm aware, the very first 9th edition Index Astartes that they've done. They've done them previously in 8th edition. We had things like the Inquisition and the Harlequins got all their rules via White Dwarf because they completely bypassed Psychic Awakening. But this is the first one. The tomb.
Those old ones couldn't have been called Index Astartes though.
They were always Index something or other.
Ah, yes, there we go.
So yes, this one's Index Astartes. It is Tomb Keepers. Tome Keepers. I'll never get that right, unfortunately.
No, clearly not. Are these guys successors of the Thousand Suns?
No, they're successors of Ultramarines, believe it or not. They are they're a custom chapter effectively created for White Dwarf by White Dwarf to be an army that they can represent within their pages. There was several articles going back over a couple of issues about how to create custom chapters, which was actually really just interesting, especially for people that do want to create custom chapters, because that's a hot flavor that people like to do nowadays. So they went through the process of creating their own custom chapter, and now they've brought it to life via a codex supplement. All official, all match play. They all come with points to an extent. This one varies the most from the others. because actually what you get here is 4 characters that you can use. Tome Keepers chapter are an Ultramarine successor chapter from the rulebook, and you can use them alongside the rules found in Codex Supplement Ultramarines. And they also say they use the Bolter Fusillade and Indomitable successor chapter tactics found in Codex Space Marines. And then you basically get 3 characters. 3 characters are sort of like the standard characters, but they effectively get either, I believe they all come with like a free relic built into their profile, which is what makes them more interesting. So you don't have to pay CP to get extra relics. I mean, you still can do on top of that. So that might be this bonus that this army has. So, for example, you got Captain Nicem, and he's got the Keeper of the Key. If this model gains a Warlord trait, it must be the Master of Strategy Warlord trait. None models in your army can be given the Sunwrath Pistol Relic, because that's also what he comes with by default. He's also the Captain of the 3rd Company. If this model is included in your Crusade army, so there's some Crusade rules in here, it automatically gains the Master of Arsenal honorific, even though it cannot normally gain battle honors. This does not increase its Crusade points. Everything else, as far as I'm aware, is a pretty standard captain. How does that sound to you, Dan, so far?
I mean, it's interesting for sure. I mean, obviously, from a loadout perspective, he's got his Sunwrath pistol, which is basically a swanky plasma pistol, and a master-crafted power axe, which is actually quite exciting because that is an option that, to the best of my understanding, is not available to Primaris captains at all.
Ooh, yeah, that's well spotted. I think you're correct.
Yeah, so obviously they've got master-crafted power swords, even master-crafted power fists. But yeah, no axes, no maces. Interesting.
I have to say, I do like axes, and I wish there was more in it, especially for Primaris Marines, because it seems like a pretty decent stat line.
It's your lumberjack appearance, mate, that makes you a fond fan of the axe.
I like to go out and chop that wood. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm a lumberjack, as they say.
I will move on now to the next one. Is that
all we've got for the captain? I mean, he seems good, though, right? I mean, obviously, a mastercrafted power axe is an interesting addition because +2 strength, -2. The points value for him is a flat 100 as well.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. No, I like it. I think being strength +2 as well with an axe is actually quite incredible, because that means that he's obviously strength 6, -2 flat 2 damage. Yeah, that's
that would do some more.
That's pretty tasty.
No.
Well, you run into some Sisters of Battle or some Drakari, you're going to be winning those guys on 2s, which is no bad thing. I also like that they have used the body, or it appears to be they've used the body from the limited edition Power Fist captain in their conversion, or at least it looks that way to me. I'm curious if I'm wrong about that, but it does look like that Power Fist captain. Oh wait, no, it is based off of a standard cap. They haven't used the limited edition Power Fist captain at all, but they have used an arm from a Hellblaster and an axe from I have no idea where.
Sanguinary Guard, apparently, because there is a page that I believe I didn't photograph for you that tells you how they went round and made them all.
Oh well, that'll be fun, Phil. You can quiz me on where I think all the bits came from.
Oh, well, let's do that as an added game. So we'll move on now.
A game within a game.
Exactly. Epistolary Lycandos, who is a librarian with a 4-stave, comes with all the usual grenades as well, and a bolt pistol. Comes with his psychic hood. He gets the reliquary of Gaffalamore, which is an aura. While an enemy psychic unit is within 18 inches of the bearer, subtract 1 from psychic test for that unit. And each time a psychic test is failed for that unit, roll a d6. On a 4+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. I like that. He also has the Truth Seeker. If this model gains a Warlord trait, it must be the Calm Under Fire Warlord trait from Codex Supplement Ultramarines. No other model in your army can have a reliquary of a Gaffalamore relic, Eva, which is from Codex Space Marines. And then he's a Psyker, 2 psychic powers, and deny 1 psychic power. and can take either the standard librarian discipline or the Indomitus discipline from Codex Supplement Ultramarines. That will be the theme of this.
That is true. I mean, I like as well with this guy that they've shown him with 2 different heads, which is quite interesting. So his profile image is him helmeted, and if you go back a few pages, you can see him there with his fleshy face, which is quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
They've done that actually for a couple of guys, the standard bearer as well, and actually the chaplain. So clearly, whoever modelled these has gone the extra mile and done some magnetic heads, which is quite cool.
Very cool. I would hazard a guess that it's just blue tack. That is apparently the go-to method of the heavy metal artists for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently.
You would have thought, though, if they were using them as more frequent gaming pieces, they might, frequent the magnet.
For this one, maybe, but generally, heavy metal and stuff isn't gaming pieces, and they're very rarely touched. So I think that's why they do things like blue tack for a lot of things, and a tiny bit of blue tack in that little head nodule, whatever it's socket, socket.
Yes, socket.
It's super easy to do. It's almost like just do that rather than magnetizing it.
Indeed. Why was I under the impression, and maybe this is a mistake on my part because I haven't played Space Marine Librarians in ages, like since 9th edition, I've never taken Space Marine Librarians, mostly because of the fact that Space Marine Librarians used to give up. Basically, it meant that you couldn't take Aboard the Witch.
Yes, yeah.
But I was always under the impression that a Space Marine Librarian was weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 3. And this guy's weapon skill, ballistic skill 3.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll have a quick look while we're at it, and we can double check. I think weapon skill 3 sort of sounds about right.
Potentially. I'm just interested at this point. I for some reason, I thought they were weapon skill 2. I mean, from a modelling perspective.
Weapon skill 3. Sorry.
It is weapon skill 3. Well, there you go. That's something to remember. Next time I get charged by a librarian, I will be quick to remind them. I'm sure I'm not the only person out there who probably thinks that. But yeah, model-wise, I'm curious where his arms come from, actually. So he's using the force stave from the standard old-school Firstborn plastic kit. And I'm assuming that they've just used the arm from that as well. And then they've just put it on top of, like, an arm swap that kind of, has it poking out. And in terms of his left arm, I'm not actually sure where that's come from. It's a very bad photo, so it's difficult to see, but I'm just guessing it must just be like a bolter arm that has no bolter in it. Where did it come from, Phil?
So, Lycandos is based on a Primaris librarian with a staff converted from the regular librarian model and a gesticulating intercessor hand. His head is taken from Jensen Natorian, the librarian in Kill Team Cassius.
Oh, I was going to say that as well. Sorry, yes, that I did notice that bit as well. That is the Blood Ravens librarian. But yeah, I forgot I was looking at the helmeted version of him. But yes, that was that. Well, there we go. Cool.
I have to say, with librarians, I do miss the old versions of librarians where you used to be able to choose ranks that allowed you to cast more powers. I believe there was like 3 different levels of it. And then going back into the old, like, actual Index Astartes book, where it talked about all the lore and stuff that you used to be able to get, they've got 3 different ranks of librarians. So that is something I really anally want to recreate in my Minotaurs army. Basically have 3 different librarian models, just because, even though it doesn't really give you any benefit in the game whatsoever, unless of course you upgrade one to be like, the Grandmaster Wizard librarian,
chief librarian.
Yes, the Grandmaster Wizard. If you upgrade it to him, then and you also just so happen to have a regular librarian as well, then it would make perfect sense.
Indeed, absolutely. Tell us more about this chaplain fella.
He is Orator Cephax. So I believe, obviously, all of them standard stat lines. He's got an Absolver bolt pistol and the Benediction of Fury, which is +2 strength, -2 AP, and a flat 3 damage. He's a spiritual leader, so they can use his leadership. He's got a Rosarius with a 4-up invuln save, and he's got the Young Fury. If this model gains a Warlord trait, it must be the Iron Resolve Warlord trait, and no other models can have a Benediction of Fury relic, which is from Codex Space Marines. Interestingly, the Iron Resolve Warlord trait is also from Codex Space Marines and not the Ultramarines successor book. And then that's it.
Indeed.
And he's got the standard litany stuff as well. And he comes in at 90 points. The Librarian comes in at 100 points as well.
That's not bad. That's not bad. This guy's made up of some really interesting bits and pieces. So he's got the backpack from Chaplain Cassius from Kill Team Cassius. He's got the Thunder or Super Thunder Hammer arms from a Death Watch Kill Team. At the end of that Thunder Hammer is the mace of a Mace of Absolution, and his head is a head swap with the regular Firstborn Chaplain. Was it right, Phil?
No, it's almost as if you're just reading this off a page. Are you sure I didn't send you this?
You didn't send it to me. You did not send it to me. I'm legitimately guessing the bits.
I will tell you, Cephax is based on the Primaris Chaplain model. His
Crozius
is converted from the Death Watch Thunderhammer with a head of a Deathwing Mace. His bare head is from the Death Watch Kill Team, and his helmet is from the Blood Angels Chaplain.
Oh, it's a Blood Angel Chaplain. See, I got that wrong. I thought it was the regular old plastic chaplain. But you are, now that I look at it again, that's definitely, because there was a plastic chaplain that used to come in a command squad or something.
Actually, that's a really good chaplain helmet. I might have to try and get that from somewhere.
Yeah, the Death Company chaplain is definitely cool. If you can get the best chaplain helmet, in my humble opinion, is from the Interrogator Chaplain for the Dark Angels. The hooded skull mask is absolutely gorgeous.
I'm quite a fan of, and I need to get a couple of them, the Chaplain on Bike, the current Primaris one.
Oh,
because
beautiful.
It's all skulls. There's no hood, because I want to use that to convert up my Judicare guy, and the Chaplain from the Indomitus range, because all my guys are helmeted for my own personal reasons. So yeah, I need some Chaplain heads for that.
Yeah, I think obviously using the Reaver helmets is always a little bit I'm not super into that. I think if you can get some actual kind of Chaplain helmets, they're pretty cool. And yeah, the Death Company Chaplain is pretty good choice. But yeah, obviously the Dark Angels one is my favorite, but obviously only if that really applies to what you're trying to do. But there we go. This next one I'm a bit stumped on, but I'm going to try my best to say where he got his stuff from.
Okay. Well, the last guy is Ancient K, K-A-E. Interestingly, though, in the other page, he's referred to as Company Ancient K Bay Zune. So he gets a full name there, but not on his data sheet, bizarrely. He's equipped as an Ancient, and this is the thing I find really interesting, a Power Fist, along with frag grenades, crack grenades, and you can only have one of him in your army. He has a bolt pistol as well. He's got the standard Astartes banner rules. He's got the Seal of Oath at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins. Select one enemy unit while the friendly tome keepers. Did I say that right this time? Tome keepers?
Yes. Tome,
not
time keepers.
Unit within 6 inches of this model. Each time an attack is made against that target, the selected enemy unit, you can re-roll the hit rolls and wound roll, which is pretty huge. I believe that obviously is just a relic, though. And then he's got the Bearer of Tome, Empricus. If this model gains a Warlord trait, it must be the nobility made manifest from Codex Supplement Space Marines, and no other model can have the Seal of Oath relic from Codex Supplement Ultramarines as well. So they're both from the supplement. I actually really like the Seal of Oath ability. It's sort of like a better version of the Old Grudges rule that, well, you could argue it's better or worse than that the Guard has, because that is a 6-inch bubble, so it can affect multiple units, but that's only the wound roll, whereas this is hit roll and wound roll. That
is pretty reasonable. What I will say, I've got to try and name where I feel all his bits came from. I think, well, it's pretty obvious where his banner has come from. However, there is an extra bit to his banner, which is the book. So the banner is from a Vexilla, from a regular Custodes, I'm going to say, but it could also be an Terminator Aquila, but I'm pretty sure it's whatever it is from the regular ones. Or it might even be their Vanguard version, not the Vanguard, but you know what I mean, whatever. The book I can't place. I'm going to say it's from a Grey Knight kit of some sort, but I have no idea.
I thought you would have got that one.
I honestly, I can't remember because it's weird because it looked, at first I was like, oh, is it from the Master of the Raven Wing? But then I'm not sure. And then I don't know, because, well, not Master of the Raven Wing, but there used to be like, Samael used to have a book on the front of his land speeder. The Power Fist, I know that Power Fist, but then I'm not sure because it looks like the one that comes in the recent Assault Intercessor kit. But then it might not be because I feel like this predated the Assault Intercessors, but then that doesn't really mean that they couldn't have used it. And then the Crux Terminatus is from a Stern Guard or potentially Vanguard kit. But that's all I've got.
You're not 100% there, but you did well, I'm going to say.
Thank you.
So it says, K is made from a regular intercessor. His power fist and shoulder pads come from the Stern Guard kit. His banner is...
yes, of course it is. Yes, yeah. It is. Oh, that's where it's from, yes.
His banner is an Adeptus Custodes Vexilla with a Ravenwing book attached beneath it. His journal is from the Intercessor kit, which you actually can't see because it's on the back. But yeah, it's from Ravenwing. I've seen that used before a few times. I've seen people mount it on the side of vehicles and stuff, which looks really good. So it's another little bit of kit I think I need to purchase at some point. And I love the Vexilla, the kind of Aquila banners as banner ancients. I want to do that as
Joe does them a lot, doesn't he? He's always using those things, and the Empire Free Peoples one. He's always got that going on.
That's an old classic. But what I like about this one is it's very kind of Roman/Greek, where it's just an icon rather than a big flagpole. So that's sort of why I want to do one for my Minotaurs. Again, I just want to do at least 2 or 3 different banner ancients models, like a standard one, a Blade Guard one, and maybe another one to represent your well, I would say Grandmaster Wizard, but Grandmaster Banner Holder, Banner Ancient.
Yep.
So yeah,
I mean, for the most part, I feel like this represents a really interesting selection of characters. I don't think any of them massively stand out. Where it could get really interesting is in future updates when points move around, because I don't know what the longevity is of these units and what they're intended for long term. But if they are, as it is stated here, a publication for use in match play, you might end up in a situation in the future where a captain is more than 100 points. So maybe you could do some shenanigans where you go, I'm going to use this obscure captain from a White Dwarf issue, and he still retains good war gear at 5 points less or whatever it might be. Again, might be a little bit gamey, but it could be something that you could look at. I actually think the war gear options for the Ancient specifically is quite interesting, because having an Ancient with a power fist is actually quite a fun thing, because obviously, you can use him in those I suppose Blade Guard Ancient type roles, but having different options for that is quite fun.
That's my favorite model out of the 4, and I find it so disappointing when you look at the Blade Guard Ancient, for example, because I love Blade Guard. I like the look of them. Really want to take a Blade Guard Ancient with them, and it's like he has no close combat weapon whatsoever. Why? It is puzzling. So the fact that this guy comes with Power Fist, I'm like, this is cool. This is what I want from an Ancient, to actually be able to also get stuck in and do some work with things like Blade Guard Ancients, even though he's not giving them the +1 to hit, but fair enough. And I like his Seal of Oath ability as well, which I think is really useful.
Indeed. Interesting that you've informed me of Blade Guard Ancient. I won't drag people's names through the mud, but I feel like I got charged by a Blade Guard Ancient not too recently, and that Blade Guard Ancient did quite some good damage with apparent relic power sword.
Oh,
May or may not have been on there, clearly. I will not name names. I will not name names here.
Fair enough.
Joe! Joe!
See, I was going to say Richie, so... Yeah.
No, it wasn't Richie, no. Although, was it Richie? I can't even remember. To be fair, I'm not even sure if I'm accurately accusing Joe of anything. It's one of those things where I could be wrong. There's been... Whatever. It's all ancient history now.
Going back to the Codex supplement, one last point: the banner ancient guy is 95 points. While there are no stratagems with this Codex supplement, but all the others do have stratagems and extra warlord traits and relics that you can take a bit more generic. This one is just characters, which is kind of cool. I do like that they all come with like a free relic. So in theory, if you would say all 4 of them, if you were so inclined, you're getting 4 relics in addition to your regular free relic you could take, plus the extra, the armory stratagem that you could use to get extra relics. So you could really tool up this successor chapter with a ton of relics if you really wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, you'd obviously have to add another character because these guys fulfill the named character criteria, so you can't be putting more relics on them.
No, yes, you'd have to take a generic, because there's no lieutenants in this list, so you could take some lieutenants, give them the relics. I mean, you've already got a captain, and you've kind of ticked all the boxes with the other main things that you might want to take, unless you're doing things like company champions, for example.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, the Ancient with Power Fist is 15 points more than a regular Primaris Ancient, but he obviously comes with the relics and he comes with the Power Fist rather than the Bolt Rifle, which is interesting. The Primaris Chaplain is 90 points, which I believe is maybe a few points more than a regular Chaplain. I think they're 80 points for a regular Primaris Chaplain.
It is 85, you're correct.
There we go. So, 85 points, though, to add a weapon with a little bit more, bite to it. Not that the Crozius Arcanum is particularly, hopeless, but, it's still interesting. I mean, it's interesting. And it's cool that White Dwarf, now has a chapter that, fights for the forces of, the contributors to White Dwarf. I think that's quite interesting. And, it's cool that they've used that white color scheme with the, with the kind of link to the whole book related stuff with the Keeper of the Tome. I think, it's quite nice.
I believe the chapter symbol is a book with a star inside, if I recall correctly. Yeah, because obviously the star is a white dwarf. Hence,
there you go.
The little representation of that, and what I like about these, not only does it give you, I don't know, like 3 or 4 pages of lore, they tend to always give you the livery and heraldry as well. So they show you how it's painted up, how the squad markings work, and how you paint the different helmets depending on whether you're battle brother or sergeant or captain or what have you, and also give you all the kind of different company colours as well. And that's something they tend to do for all the others throughout this kind of series of Index Astartes as well. So if you do want to collect them, you've kind of got the bare minimum that you need to know if you want to be like me and paint it up official and correct.
Well, indeed. You've always got to pursue the official and correct colour scheme. What is the next of the... chapters.
The next one is issue 460, and if I flick through it to the relevant page, it's Joe's favourite. Do you know which one it is?
Well, if you're saying, I mean, it depends what day of the week it is. If you're trying to refer to what Joe's favourite is, but once upon a time he liked to pretend that he was into Emperor's Spears.
Correct. 10 points to you.
Way, there we go. Getting all them points.
Yeah. So this is, again, it is a Codex supplement. And it's an Ultramarine successor chapter as well. There's a designer note which I won't read out because it's long. but I presume it's just talking about how they're Ultramarine successors, but they have literally nothing to do with Ultramarines whatsoever, other than pretty much the gene seed and some Roman traits.
Lovely.
They've got a chapter tactic, which is called Emperor Spears Redden the Earth. So you can add one to your advance and charge rolls made for units with this tactic. And each time a model with this tactic makes a melee attack, if that model's unit had made a charge move, was charged, or performed a heroic intervention, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit.
So they get add 1 to advance and charge rolls made for unit with this tactic, which is, good. That's what Blood Angels have, essentially, and they do very well out of that. And each time a model with this tactic makes a melee attack, if a model's unit has made a charge move, was charged, or performs a heroic intervention this turn, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit, is good. It's not exceptional, but it's good. I think, obviously, the Blood Angel ability of being +1 to your wound rolls is going to be, broadly accepted as being better, but more hits creates potentially more opportunities, especially when you're wielding really powerful weapons, So if you are going to go in and, smash something with a power fist or a thunder hammer, being able to get extra thunder hammer hits is theoretically more valuable than being able to get +1 to the wound, because in a lot of instances you're going to be wounding on a healthy number anyway. So getting more attacks is probably quite useful. So yeah, it's a horses for courses conversation, but I like it. And +1 to your charge is no bad thing. And they've got their own relics as well, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, so unlike the last one was a bit of an outlier where it was just characters. This one is a bit more standard, where you get relics, warlord traits, and stratagems. So the first relic is Druidic Talisman, librarian or chaplain models only. Once per turn, you can reroll a psychic test made for the bearer, or reroll the dice when determining if a litany reciting by the bearer is inspiring.
It's really good. It's a really good relic. Immediately understand what its use is. I think you're always going to prioritize putting that on a librarian over a chaplain, unless, of course, you're going to pay to upgrade that chaplain so as it can do 2 litanies a turn. But even then, if you're doing that, you're probably going to give it the Wise Orator ability, in which case you're rolling on 2s.
Yeah.
But I suppose, it depends. If you've got some litanies that you really, really want, but I think moreover, you're probably going to be prioritizing that as a librarian, because it's more likely that you're going to, well, it's not more likely, but it feels more likely that you're going to fail more often with librarians than you might do with than you might do with chaplains. Plus, also, you never know, you might have one of those weird instances where you roll a double 6, and even though you succeeded, that could result in your librarian blowing up, and you might be like, I'll re-roll that.
Yeah,
so,
that's true. A sort of free re-roll for your librarian, I think, allows you to kind of go out and take those sort of slightly more powerful psychic powers, knowing that you've effectively got a free re-roll every turn. To try and pull them off, so you can go for those 7s and 8s. Not there are many 8s, but
it would have been really nice though had they expanded that to also apply to denies. So if you could re-roll psychic tests and denies, that would have been crazy good. But
that's true. Yeah.
It's still good as it is, and I do like the fact that it's sort of weird, but it is kind of nice that it is a one-size-fits-all item that works on chaplains and librarians. You don't see that too often, a relic that goes across 2 specialties.
That's true, actually. Yeah. The next one is the Beast Hide Cloak. So each time an attack is allocated to the bearer, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic to a minimum of 1. Pretty straightforward. Pretty good.
Love it. Yep. Good. Real good.
And
really rate that.
The last one is the Horizon Blade. So it's a model equipped with a power sword or mastercrafted power sword, replaces that weapon. So it's obviously a melee weapon. It's +2 strength, -4 AP, 2 damage. And this weapon has a damage characteristic of 3 or more. Sorry, not 3 or more, or 3, and an armor penetration characteristic of -5 in the turn in which the bearer made a charge move or performed a heroic intervention.
I mean, in all seriousness, having -5 AP is only useful in a real handful of instances.
Like, basically, something with a 2-up save that doesn't have an invuln. So things like vehicles. normally.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're punching a land raider, woo. But,
Or you've got your druidic talisman librarian getting off not psychic fortress, null zone, and then it has a lot more utility.
well, true. In those instances, for sure. But yeah, but flat free damage is meaningful, and it doesn't hurt to be -5. And then obviously, if you're in the assault doctrine, you're -6. Woo!
Which is really good against Terminators that can get a 1-up save due to their storm shields.
Exactly, but then they got 4-up invuns.
No,
so it wouldn't matter.
Null zone. This is the way.
Null zone, sorry, null zone, yes.
And then you're
Yes,
like,
the
no
massive
save.
Well, fair enough. I mean, yeah, there's the double act, the librarian on jump pack and librarian on jump pack and this guy. I mean, one of the things I will say about these relics and these warlord traits, straight away I read that and I know this is supposed to be a Primaris chapter, but already you're looking at that going Vanguard vets and captains and things on jump packs, because that chapter ability is massively beneficial to Vanguard vets with lightning claws and storm shields. And the sword is also useful for that, as is the ability to reroll psychic tests and stuff. So yeah, already I'm like, just take it on firstborn Vanguards.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, seems straightforward. Let's move on to the warlord traits.
Please.
We've got bloodied but unbroken. So add 1 to the attack characteristics for this warlord, and while this warlord has fewer than the starting number of wounds, add 1 to the attack's characteristics. So potentially +2. That's pretty cool.
So again, if you had that on a firstborn captain character with a lightning claw and a storm shield, because that's what people keep saying is good, that character would have 5 attacks because of the lightning claw, because you get +1 attack for the lightning claw, I believe. He'd have 4 attacks on his profile. He'd have an extra attack for the fact that he had this warlord trait, and he would get an additional 1 for charging, and then if he was wounded, so he'd have as many as 8 attacks. Way!
It's great. Yeah.
Pretty good. And then any 60s, he'd get more attacks. Way!
Well, that's true.
And then he'd be wounding, re-rolling all wounds. Way! Oh, come on now. This is the way to go.
We found a competitive build with the Emperor Spears.
Mate, honestly, I mean, +1 to your charges, the ability to add extra attacks. I mean, yeah, it's a firstborn skill set if ever I saw it. The one thing this doesn't work on is Primaris Marines. If you want to do it optimized, I suppose.
Well, yes. The next warlord trait is tribal heritage. Once per battle, you may reroll a failed hit wound roll or saving throw made for the warlord. Incredible.
There's also a second part to it as well, isn't
there? Oh, yes, sorry. The bullet point goes over onto the second column. That is very bad. The editor should be fired. Once per battle, if your army is battle forged, you can use a valid epic deed stratagem on this warlord without spending any command points. There's none from here, so it will be the ones from the main codex or Ultramarines supplement.
But the epic deeds are all of the, heroic. Oh no, is heroic deeds its own thing, isn't it? Epic deeds is more. Hang on, I'm gonna look for an example of a epic deed. Here's one: Armor of Contempt. Use a stratagem phase when an Adeptus Astartes vehicle. That's not going to really account to this. Combat Revival. Use the stratagem at the end of the moving phase. So that went. Oh no, that's an apothecary. Commanding Orator. Oh, that's an epic deed. So maybe if this guy is a chaplain or something of that nature, it gets quite interesting. I'm looking for more epic deeds. Only in Death does duty end. Use the stratagem fight phase when Adeptus started character model from your army that was not already been selected to fight this is destroyed. So yeah, so for that should cost you 2 CP, but for him it'll be free.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of CP efficiency, once per battle, you can reroll a failed hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw made for this warlord is valuable because obviously, that's a free reroll baked into every single battle, which is good. But the epic deed stratagem thing is quite interesting. I wouldn't say it's as good as bloodied but unbroken, but It's interesting.
Totally get where you come from. This is basically three. Wait, let's get it right for the listener that criticizes us. 3 CP, 3 free CP. Hope I got that right. 3. Yeah. The last one is Sentinel of the Veil, which sounds very cool. This warlord is eligible to form a heroic intervention if it is within 6 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically of an enemy unit, instead of 3 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically. Each time it makes a heroic intervention, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3. All rules for heroic intervention still apply. Plus, this warlord fights first in the fight phase.
So fighting first is massively valuable, obviously.
Especially when you've done a heroic intervention. Or even if you've just been charged, I guess. You'll still fight first.
Yeah, I like it. Again, bloodied but not unbroken. Or bloodied but unbroken is the way you're going to go every time. Plus 2 attacks is just too good. Overall, I would say. Or not too good, but it's just good in the way this army plays, because obviously if you're gonna prioritize combat, the more attacks you can get, the better. So yeah, no, I'm madly in favor of bloody but not unbroken. I mean, that's the way to go if you're gonna do it. Then we got some stratagems, Phil.
Yeah, we do. This one is a mouthful. Let's try and pronounce it.
Oh God, it's like that. It's like the Welsh train station.
God,
like, what really is this?
Skovak Kara Earl Zeron. I think that's right.
I mean, not quite as bad.
Skovaraka or Zeron.
It rolls off the tongue.
Exactly. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when an Emperor's Spear Corps or Emperor's Spear character unit from your army has made a charge move, was charged or performed a heroic intervention this turn and is selected to fight. Until the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the attacker's attack's wound roll. If this unit contains 5 or fewer models, it costs 1 CP. Otherwise, it costs 2 CP. So basically, +1 to your wound roll.
Yeah, fantastic. So essentially, you don't get the Blood Angel's ability, but you get it for 1 CP or 2 CP, depending on the size of your unit. And given the fact that you're going to generate a load of extra hits if you're a 10-man unit, I mean, that's incredible, right? I mean, literally the idea that you charge in and then all of a sudden you've got your, I don't know, 30, 40 attacks with your unit, which will then, over the process of, attacking with them, potentially end up at something like 41 if, say, for example, you have a chaplain that gives them reroll hits, or more likely you have a chapter master that gives them reroll all hits. So you might end up with like 41, 42 hits, and then you're going to be wounding pretty much most things that you run into on freeze, which is redonkulous. Throw in the idea that all of these guys are Lightning Claw Vanguard vets, and then all of a sudden you're re-rolling all those wound rolls as well. So you're just going to literally hand a bucket of saves to someone. Have fun with those.
Yeah, that one is a pretty mad combo. Yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree.
And then the last one is Fighters Brothers. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when an Emperor's Spear infantry unit from your army is selected to fight. Select 1 enemy unit within engagement range of that unit and 1 or more other friendly Emperor's Spear units. Until the end of that phase, each time a friendly Emperor's Spear infantry unit makes a melee attack against that unit, you can re-roll the hit roll.
Right, okay, cool. So you don't even need the chapter master. You just get it.
For 2 CP, though.
Yeah, but still. So you could have 2 units. So if you triangulated your assaults really well, you can essentially end up in a situation where you can fling 2 units into your opponent, dishing out an absolute truckload of attacks, all re-rolling hits. It's just, yeah, it's very, very strong, Phil. That's some interesting stuff there. What successor are these guys from, by the way?
So it's Ultramarines.
Ultramarines, okay. So they haven't really got the best successor tactic necessarily, which is a bit of a bummer. But other than that, I mean, and I suppose they haven't necessarily got... Well, actually, if they're Ultramarine successors, there's some really interesting stratagems in Ultramarines that you could do some shenanigans with. So you could do the whole redeploying your army thing, so you can always kind of maintain an offensive or defensive strategy depending on what you're coming up against. So because you can redeploy like 3 units, you could have 2 really terrifying like combat entities and hold them back. And then if it is that you can capitalize, you can move in with them. Potentially, actually, just thought about it, Phil. Potentially, actually, a really interesting build for these guys could be the Phobos in Curses, which are the combat Phobos guys. So you could do some really interesting like defensive plays with them. But then if you know that you're going to go super aggressive, you could then redeploy them into, far out and then just push. Unless, of course, the Ultramarines redeploy stratagem doesn't take into effect or take into account the whole infiltrator style units. But whatever the case, there's some fun things you could do with it. I like the sound of the army list.
It's got a lot of close combat sort of elements to it, which is really in keeping with the Emperor's Spears. Looking at that last Fighters Brothers stratagem, it doesn't just affect one unit, it can affect multiple units. It basically requires you to have 2 units in close combat with that one unit, one enemy unit, and then any unit attacking that enemy unit gets those rerolls. So for 2 CP, but could potentially be affecting 2 or 3 different units of any size, is actually quite useful.
I suppose I was wrong as well in my earlier assertion around the fact there isn't really some Primaris builds that would benefit from this, because I forgot that Blade Guard are a thing. So you could be looking at like, I don't know, like a Blade Guard army built around this would be amazing. Like maybe 3 units of Blade Guard all in impulsors. Send that at someone.
Yeah, Assault Intercessors, always a good one as well.
Yeah, I'm not massively sold on the Assault Intercessor at the moment. It doesn't hit hard enough, in my opinion.
Well, if you've got, what was it, +1 to wound.
Yeah, if you got the +1 to wound, that is true. That is true. And then the idea that you can, yeah, I suppose so. But even then, I'm not massively. I mean, they do put out a lot of attacks. I like them as Death Company, but I don't necessarily like them as standard.
Yeah, actually, the +1 to wound was the Tome Keepers. So ignore me. It was reroll to wounds for these guys. Unless I was making that up.
No, I think you were right. It's the +1 to wound for these guys. I've just got to. So
the other stratagem. Yes, yeah, the other stratagem was the +1 to wound. Okay, yeah, I wasn't going mad. Yeah. Interesting looking army as well. I mean, the Emperor's Spears have got a really nice color scheme. They've got a really nice flavor to them. I hear they've got some really nice lore. So yeah, maybe some Blade Guard, maybe some elements there. Could be an interesting list for sure. Love to see one and play against one. I think it would take a lot of people by surprise, which would be cool. Yeah. I think the thing that lets them down though is that Ultramarine successors situation. Had they been White Scar successors, you kind of get on board with it, or yeah, there's probably loads more stratagems that would synergize with them. But I guess they're sort of hemmed in by the law. But in a way, that's quite nice that you get the options of, because Ultramarines tend to be quite shooty. Gives you an option to be a bit more close combat-y if you want a particular army. You've got that flexibility, I guess, because you could be like, I want to play them as Ultramarines that are all shooty, or Ultramarine successors with these rules that are much more close combat orientated. So I like that you can have a sort of flexibility in that army.
Totally agree, mate. We got another Index Astartes in the form of the Exorcists, right?
Oh, we do indeed.
Should we get straight into that?
Yes.
So the Exorcist, Phil, I heard somewhere that these guys are the successors of the Grey Knights. Is that not true?
Lies. No.
Oh, okay.
So, interesting fact, these were originally in the Badab War. They had no known successor or Primarch. So it was always unknown, and it was only in this supplement did they explain who it was. Can you guess which one it is?
Ultramarines.
No.
Oh. Thousand Sons.
No.
Grey Knights?
No. They don't have any successor. chapters.
Do they not?
Either. No, Grey Knights are just Grey Knights. That's it.
No, yeah, but that was the thing anyway. These guys, apparently, anyway, it's a whole thing at one point. Who are they the successors of, Phil?
Imperial Fists.
Oh, Imperial Fists.
And that was a new revelation. In fact, there's a load of new lore in here. I had a read through of it, and then I had a read through my Badab War book as I was glancing at the Minotaur stuff, and to see how it had changed and what have you. So there's lots of more interesting stuff in here they've kind of developed on and give you a bit more background. They're basically demon hunters, which is why you might have thought Grey Knights. They're very closely tied to the Inquisition on their homeworld. They've got an Inquisition like HQ that are like permanently based there. They have a special ritual when they induct their initiates, where they all have to basically be possessed by a demon and then exorcise that demon. And that initially happened to the very first, I think, chapter master. And then when the Inquisition got a whiff of it, they were more curious about it, and hence why they've teamed up. So they have really close ties to the Inquisition, which if I'd have known about before I did my mind tours, I probably would have chosen these, or a close second at the very least.
I mean, I am intrigued by these guys, to be fair. It does look like they've got some intriguing rules that they've filled the pages with. I mean, their chapter tactics starts promising, but I'll let you expand on that, and then we can get into it, I guess.
Yeah,
but I will say, if I can say, I appreciate I've just sort of realised that I gave you the perfect intro and then cut you off there. Starting off with an Imperial Fist successor chapter tactic thing is not ideal for anyone, in as much as the super doctrine for the Imperial Fists is a bit weird these days, with the whole only really comes into effect with high strength weapons. But maybe there's stuff in here that synergizes with that nicely. So yeah, please continue.
Yeah, what was interesting about the fact that Imperial Fist is no one except like the inner circle, to give you a Dark Angels reference, because they do have their own inner circle, is aware of the fact that they're Imperial Fist successors. They have no ties to them. People like Black Templars absolutely hate these guys because they think they're all, closely tied with demons and stuff. So, and they're obviously all Imperial Fist successors. So they, a bit like the Emperor Spears, don't really have much to do with their main successor whatsoever, and it's only very small. The people in the cool club in that inner circle are the ones that are aware of it. Fair
enough. So what is their chapter tactic?
Yeah, the chapter tactic is, by my will, I denied thee. You get out of my house.
Get out off my land.
Off my land. Each time an attack is made with against a unit with this tactic, an unmodified wound roll of 1 or 2 always fails, irrespective of any abilities that weapon or the attacker may have. So a very lightweight. What's that stratagem called now?
Transhuman.
Lightweight transhuman, basically.
But still not insubstantial, right? I mean, obviously, only winning on a 4+ is very, very strong, and it still absolutely staggers me that they gave that to the Deathwing. I feel like having Terminators that you can only wound on 4s it's a bridge too far, but we are where we are with that one. Maybe at some point they will evaluate and assess that and reduce it to a 1 or 2 type situation, because I think that's more appropriate. But irrespective, I think, only being able to wound them on 1s or 2s is solid though, right? Not being able to wound them on 1s and 2s, only being able to wound them on 3-ups is good. Because, there are a decent, amount of strength 8 and above weapons that are doing the rounds, and being able to increase the likelihood of surviving against those is good. So, is it the best? No. Is it all right? Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's good. It's not incredible. I think, and you're obviously about to talk about this, but I think if this second part of their chapter tactic was better, you could really justify or suggest reasons why this might be an interesting idea to take. But I'll let you explain what the second bit is and explain why I don't think it's that great.
Ooh, well, interesting. So the second half is similar to Black Templars, for example. Each time a model with this tactic would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll a d6 on a 5+. That wound is not lost.
Great if you're in a situation where you're going to be receiving a lot of mortal wounds. at this moment in time, that is not a really very prevalent situation. It's very rare that you're going to take a lot of mortal wounds in a game.
It's quite thematic against demons, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I mean, how they've sort of pitched it against demon armies. I guess they're the ones that do quite a bit of mortal wound damage. Damage. Because obviously demons all I want to say French, but in fact, yeah, maybe that was French. Damage.
I don't think it. Well, maybe. I mean, let's say yes.
But, I've made it French now.
Have you made it French? You possess the qualifications to, change the origins of all language.
Yeah, I phoned them up. Just double check.
Phone them up. Get correct. On the old blower to Macron. You say him, "Oi, come on now. This is French here."
Exactly.
I told you. For me, 5 up against mortal wounds is incredible in the 1 in 100 games where it's incredible, but most of the time you're not going to really ever reap the benefits. But if you've got a mate who collects Thousand Suns, or you've got a mate who plays Grey Knights, and you really want to be bothersome, sure, go for it. But outside of your own local metas, I wouldn't waste your time.
Well, you never know. They've obviously been teasing Grey Knights and Thousand Suns.
They have.
There's a future codex releases, so they might get big boons. So this might be the perfect army to counter them.
This could be it. I mean, if we end up in a situation where it's a Grey Knight Thousand Sun meta, these guys are waiting in the wings to come and muck them up. So what relics have they got though, Phil? What are they bringing to the table? So what makes these guys special?
Not 1, but not 2. They have 3 relics. They have Cessation, models equipped with bolt pistol, heavy bolt pistol, mastercrafted special issue bolt pistol, or absolver bolt pistol replaces that with the following profile: range 18 inches, pistol 1, strength 5, -3 AP, and flat free damage. Also, each time an attack is made with this weapon, you can reroll the hit roll and the wound roll. That seems well good. It's
easily the best relic gun I've seen in ages. I mean, there's nothing bad about it. It can insta-kill an aggressor. And it rerolls hits and reroll wounds at strength 5, which means in almost all instances you're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, which is something obviously your captains can't do natively anymore because obviously they can't give themselves their own auras. And then you're going to wound an aggressor squad on a 4 with a reroll, and then you're going to be -3 damage. It's easily the best. It's the best pistol relic I've seen in a while. The reroll hit and wounds is massive.
Although saying that, there are in the main Space Marine Codex, and this was a topic I wanted to talk about at some other point. It's like, I think a lot of those relic weapons are so overlooked, but are actually really cool. Some really cool, fun one. There's one that does 5 shots or something. I'm sure. There's some really cool options in there, but most people are just nah, just want to go for Mastercraft
Burning Blade, isn't it?
Or whatever. Burning Blade, exactly. Everyone always goes for the same 1 or 2 relics, but I actually think some of those shooting ones, because you can do that every single turn predominantly, is much more efficient maybe than the ones that you can do in combat, which might only be 3 or 4 turns.
Yeah, and obviously the pistols have actual functionality in combat as well, right? Yeah. So it's no bad thing. I mean, the idea that you could have a chapter master or any character that finds itself in a melee with something like an aggressor squad with their power fists, taking out one aggressor is a big important get when you're in those back and forth exchanges. So having a pistol that can do it.
He's basically doing that scene in The Matrix where he's like, dodge this, and finishing them off.
That's it. All right, no, I like it. I mean, reroll hit, reroll wound is impressive enough, but the fact that it's strength 5 -3 flat 3 damage is even more impressive. And let's not understate range 18. So you can give this bolt pistol to, again, a firstborn Marine with his 12-inch range bolt pistol. You get +6 range, +1 damage, +3 AP, +2 damage, which I might have already said, and the ability to reroll hit and reroll wound. It's incredible.
Yeah, what I like about it is it is only 1 shot, but because they've given it the reroll hit and reroll wound rolls, means it's hopefully going to at least get through. Because quite often with these really cool one shot weapons, they're just like, oh yeah, I missed. Great. So I like that.
It's the noisy cricket of pistol weapons. It's good stuff.
The next one is the Exile Plate. So the bearer has a save characteristic of 2+. Plus, while an enemy unit is with engagement range of the bearer, each time an invulnerable save is made for a model in that enemy unit, an unmodified roll of 1 to 4 is always a fail, or 1 to 5 if it is a Chaos Demon model.
Ooh, that's super interesting. So essentially, you hurl this guy into a unit with 4, maybe even by some, twist of fate, 3 up invuns. And now all of a sudden, they're only got 5 up invuns.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's massive.
It's like in a way, it's slightly better than Null Zone, because Null Zone switches off your own invuns as well. Whereas this one actually really knocks it down. And to an extent, some invuns are normally capped around 4 anyway, so you're taking a 4 to a 5. But there are some people, there's like the Dark Elder, the Archon, who has a 2-up one until he fails it. You got Makari with a 2-up invun all the time, I think. So you do get some, and you can get through other janky means, like you get Psychic Barrier on guard that you could cast on something that's to get like crazy invuln saves as well. So there are ways to get really good invuln saves in the game.
If you come up against Chaos Demons, though, they're going to hate you. Like, you've got things like, incredible invuln saves that some of the Zench stuff has and some of the other things have. The idea that you could just run up to them and be like, "Oh, you got 3 up invuln, have you? Now it's a 6." It's like, that's pretty hefty.
Do you want to take some of your Marines against our game against Rapid Fire Wargaming, because they'd be rocking some Chaos Demons?
Oh, really? Well, fair enough. I can pretend they're Exodites.
Blood Ravens are red. These guys are red. They look very similar.
Oh, there you go. It's all possible. We talk about that later, by the way, if anyone's curious. What Phil has done is use the continuity of our recording, but not consider the continuity of our editing.
Or it's just foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, there you go.
Exactly.
That'll come later. We'll talk about that in the hobby section in a moment. What's the last of the bits, Phil?
The last one is Expulsiarius, like Expelliarmus, if you're a Harry Potter fan. It's a model equipped with a power sword or mastercrafted power sword, replaces with the following profile. So it's a melee weapon. It's +2 strength. It's -4 AP. It is 2 damage. And each time an attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of a 6, or if it's a Chaos Demon, 4+, inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to the normal damage.
I'll take the pistol.
Yeah, I think the pistol is more fun.
I think the pistol is more fun. I think, in all seriousness, you're probably going to strongly consider the Exile Plate for the decrease in invuln, because that's pretty massive. The fact it gives you a 2-up save is really good, but the idea of you rocking this with a unit of Blade Guard, for example, is pretty terrifying. So you could be running up to units and reducing their invuln save to 5 up or potentially even 6 up, and then hitting them with loads of relic swords, which is pretty amazing, because it's not just the bearer of the Exile Plate who gets the benefit. As long as he is within engagement range of an enemy, that squad is suffering that minus. So one of them in conjunction with a squad of Blade Guard could be very, very troubling.
Also, if you're doing it on, for example, your Blade Guard captain, he's now got a 1-up save, which is quite nice.
Oh yeah, look at you with your your knowledge of rules. There it is. Exactly. Boosh, 1-up save.
Yeah, not
beautifully played. What's next, Phil?
So
Warlord traits, I suspect.
Is the Warlord traits. It is. There are 3 Warlord traits. The first one is the Enochian or Enochian Guard. These are members of a prestigious Horizon cult. So what's interesting about these guys is they have little cults within them. So they all go off, and depending on which company you're in or which squad you're in, you might have a cult where you have a little worship, have a gather around, do some prayers, do some occultism potentially.
Nice,
so this
nice.
is to represent that. So once per battle, you can modify the result of a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw made for this warlord to a 6. And then the other one is once per battle, you can use an Adeptus Astartes epic deed stratagem without spending any CP if this warlord is the model specified by that stratagem's keyword. So a bit like the last one for Emperor's Spears, you could basically, once you die, attack again for free.
It's all right. I mean, again, the epic deed stuff is quite interesting. The once per battle, you can modify the result of a hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw made for the warlord. For this warlord to a 6 is interesting as well, because I'm trying to start to think about instances where rolling a 6 is massively beneficial. So potentially there, I can't remember if the for example, if the Primaris Phobos captain, I can't remember if his gun does mortal wounds on a 6.
Oh, to hit, for example.
To wound. So if you roll a 6, because his bolt rifle is actually like a sniper rifle, so potentially rolling a 6 with him is going to give you a mortal wound in addition to other damage. So the fact that you can manipulate it to become a 6 is quite interesting. I'm just trying to think of specific instances where that becomes extra valuable.
Yeah, I would tend to save it for a crux save when you're getting like a melter gun to the face, for example. What I like about it, though, is you're just modifying the result. So you still get to roll first, and then you get to be like, no, I'm going to change it.
Yes, yeah, 100%. It's all right. It's not jumping out at me at the minute. What's the next one?
Next one is Know Thy Enemy. Before the battle, select one unit in your opponent's army. Until the end of the battle, the warlord has the following ability. He gets the Know Thy Enemy aura, while a friendly Exorcist core or Exorcist character unit is within 6 inches of this warlord. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack against the enemy unit, you may add 1 to the attack's hit roll.
Sure. So before the battle, select one unit in your opponent's army. Until the end of the battle, this warlord has the following ability. Fine. So basically,
you get +1 to attack in a 6-inch aura on a specific unit.
Yes.
Again, a bit like Old Grudges.
Yeah. So in specific instances where you're seeing very, very like obvious targets. So if someone's got a Knight Castellan, for example, sure, fine, whatever. Otherwise, I'm not massively into it. It's all right. What's the last one?
It's kind of cool that it works on characters and not just core as well. So it's sort of a slightly beefed up version of the standard captain ones. The last one is the erudite in the verses. This warlord can attempt to deny the witch as if it were Psyker. If this warlord is a Psyker in each of your opponent's psychic phases, this warlord can attempt to deny the witch 1 additional time. And in each of your shooting phases, instead of shooting with the warlord, if you are not within engagement range of an enemy unit, you can attempt a banishment. If you do so, roll 1d6 on a 3+. The closest enemy unit within 12 inches and visible to the warlord suffers d3 mortal wounds. So it's like
you take this every time.
3 smites, basically.
You take this every time. Of their free warlord trait, that's the most interesting.
Yeah, especially if you load out a captain that's much more close combat orientated and isn't really going to be doing much shooting anyway.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, the fact that your captain can attempt to deny the witch is pretty big, but also the fact that in the shooting phase of certain shooting for the warlord, and it's not an engagement range, the fact that you can do a shooting attack smite is also really quite impressive. So yeah, personally, I like the idea of actually just taking this on a librarian just to get the additional deny. I feel like with the exorcists, if you're going to do it, you probably want to be taking a chief librarian, and then you want to be giving him this warlord trait to be able to really amplify the psychic output, but also the denial, which further plays into the archetype that this army will be an absolute nightmare for Grey Knights and for Thousand Sons. So if you are suspecting that you're going to be coming up against a lot of them in the future, I feel like there's an argument that your army might soon want to become a bunch of exorcists, because you can do a lot of nuisance to those lot.
Yeah, I think that's my favourite of the free warlord traits. I'd probably put it on a captain just for the thematic reasons, but also the utility of, if you've also got librarian, you're just spreading out your bubbles of deny ranges a bit more, rather than concentrating it all in one place with an extra deny.
I feel like as well, if you're going to go all into this kind of theme, you probably are looking at, librarian, captain. I suppose you do still need a lieutenant in there, though, because people always kind of feel like they need those lieutenants for that reroll ones to wound situation. But there could be an argument for taking two librarians in this army, but depends on what you're matched up against. But it's interesting, really interesting. Yeah. Finishing up with stratagems, I guess.
Yeah, so the first one is cast out thy blackened soul for 2 CP. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when an exorcist core or character unit from your army is selected to shoot, or the fight phase when they are selected to fight. Select one Chaos Demon unit within 12 inches of that unit. Until the end of that phase, each time a model in that friendly unit makes an attack against the enemy unit, you can reroll the wound roll. So you get to reroll the wound roll against a chaos unit within 12 inches.
Chaos Demon unit,
yeah. I mean, for 2 CP, that's a lot, but could be quite handy.
Very, very, very niche. But say that demon's Mortarian, well, then all of a sudden it's become quite valuable.
Yeah, really good against taking out those kind of great demons, those big units, I think, more than...
I mean, Bellicor, right? Like, when Bellicor is going to start rocking up all over the place, all of a sudden, cast out thy blackened soul becomes crazy valuable when you're trying to shoot however many points, however many wounds Bellicor.
And I think Bellicor plus his kind of mixed demon detachment is probably going to be quite a popular build if the... Terminus Est one is anything to go by, because that one actually seems to be almost the best way of playing Death Guard now.
Yeah. So what we can expect is more Bellicors, and then be the cool guy, turn up with your exorcists and watch those Bellicor players go, what is this? This can't be legal. This isn't a real thing.
It's in a White Dwarf publication. Of course it is.
Yeah, exactly, as you're pushing up your spectacles. Yeah. Now I think you'll find.
Exactly. Yes. So the next thing I think you'll find is the Horizon Cults, which is a 1 or 2 CP stratagem. Use this stratagem before the battle when you are mustering your army. If every unit in your army has the Adeptus Astartes keyword, excluding agents of the Imperium and unaligned units, select one Exorcist core or character unit from your army, then select one Combat Doctrine. Once per battle in your command phase, you can select the Combat Doctrine to be active for that unit instead of any other Combat Doctrine until the start of your next command phase. If a unit contains 5 or fewer models, it costs 1 CP, otherwise it costs 2. So as I mentioned, the Horizon Cults are basically all the different little cults that they form up in their kind of internal little bubbles that they like to have as part of that chapter. So this is representing that. What do you think about it?
Trying to think about where the optimization is with that, because obviously the super doctrine for Imperial Fists is within the Devastator doctrine, and then you think about units that actually exploit the benefits of that, and you're looking at Hellblasters. You're looking at Hellblasters with the heavy Hellblasting variant shot. Mm-hmm. The Eliminators with the heavy weapon melter guns, and also the Suppressors, I suppose, are in the list of potential viable candidates for this doctrine. Also vehicles as well, though. I mean, what's interesting about this stipulation is it's only specific to the amount of models in the unit, so it doesn't suggest that it's infantry only. So obviously,
it's Exorcist core which does include.
Oh, right. So dreadnoughts.
Does include dreadnoughts, but not other vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, now that I think about it, you could go with a Contemptor dreadnought with 4 las cannons on it, and then you can go, cool, that's in the Devastator Doctrine turn 1, and then in turn 2 it's still in the Devastator Doctrine, which is actually quite an interesting thing. But the suppressors could be good for that as well. I mean, other obvious things is having like combat units like Blade Guard that you're going to get stuck in from, say, turn 2, being able to shift them into the combat doctrine while maintaining tactical doctrine for the rest of your army is useful. So there are interesting ways that you can do it. But I do feel like, yeah, maybe Contemptor dreadnoughts with 4 las cannons is a pretty fun option for Imperial Fist Devastator Doctrine fun.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Can you think of anything, Phil, that you might prioritize with that?
No, I think you sort of said them all. I think, yeah, like I said, you're not really going to do anything with tactical doctrine. It's either going to be combat doctrine, assault doctrine, or the sort of heavy devastator doctrine, because it's either like first turn, or last few turns that you want to maximize and switch up. So yeah, I think you kind of covered it all.
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, the Contemptor dreadnought is the most shooty dreadnought you can probably create in terms of las cannons anyway. Obviously you could look at like venerable dreadnoughts with missile launchers and twin las, but that's not nearly as durable or nearly as, devastating as 4 las cannons hitting on freeze now, isn't it, for Contemptors? But even then it's just yeah, because you're just getting the minus 1 AP on it, aren't you? Well, you're getting the additional -1, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. What about the Carey's assault pattern cannons? Because they are normally just -1, right? But you get a lot of shots, like 7. So having them to be -2, yeah. So the ability to have something with okay AP, but then all of a sudden you make that AP2 makes them much better.
The problem with that gun, though, is that it's strength 6, I believe, and the stipulation for the Imperial Fist Super Doc now is being strength 7 or more. So you need to start looking at things like the, like the suppressors with their auto cannons, for example. These are the sorts of things that you kind of
strength 7 -1 damage, 6 shots, 24-inch range.
Oh, are they strength 7? Are they?
Yeah, because they're meant to be better than the normal assault cannons.
Wow, okay, well then in which case, yeah, all right. Yeah, that could be an option, because if you're getting 12 shots out of 2 of them, because you're taking the relic variant as opposed to take the forgeable variant.
Yeah, take double cannon.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna lean heavily into the guns.
But
yeah, then all of a sudden you're gonna be damage. Is it damage 2 standard or damage 1?
No, just
standard?
damage 1.
So it becomes damage 2 for the Imperial Fists, which is that's not bad. That's not bad.
The other option is a multi-melter for -5 AP, because we like that -5, don't we? I mean, again, I feel like if you're going to do that, though, you're going to lean into the eliminators, right? I guess I wasn't really being serious there.
Or are they eliminators? Am I using the right words? Aren't the eliminators the snipers?
Yes.
Eradicators. Sorry.
Eradicators, right? Yeah.
Eradicators, the melter ones. There we go. Yeah, that would be pretty mad. The last of the stratagems.
The last one, Spiritual Resolve, 2 CP. Use this stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase when an exorcist unit from your army is selected for a psychic power manifested by an enemy psyker. The effects of that psychic power are not resolved for that manifestation. So
incredible.
A 2 CP deny psychic power against your units.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Very, very strong. What's that, Eldrad Olfran? You want to do me? No. None of that, you. Get out of here. Get off my lawn. No, that's, God. I'm actually, I really wish their chapter tactic was just a little better. But in the right circumstances, in the right matchup, it's the perfect it's the perfect.
It's always that way where you get armies that are super thematic against one particular enemy, like Grey Knights.
Yeah.
Demon hunters from that old Inquisition book, where it's like they're really good at killing demons, but anyone else, they're just not very good, and it feels like all their abilities are a bit of a waste, which is why I like that old when we went through that index, or not index, codex, there was a rule that, like, you're taking Grey Knights, so basically no matter what army your opponent's taking, they can have like a demon to be summoned within their army. So there was always a thematic reason for the Grey Knights to actually be there, and also for their rules to have some relevance against them. So you're always going to have that kind of weird matchup with this. Again, also demon specific, really. Yeah,
mate. Honestly, I'm surprised by those guys. There's a lot more to them than I was suspecting. And I think, I would recommend to anyone out there who has got a generically painted Space Marine army, who plays against a friend of theirs with Thousand Sons or, Grey Knights or even Elder on the regular, rock up with that one day.
Paint red, stick it to them. No.
Yeah, just be like, well, today I'm going to spice it up with a bit of Exorcists. Yeah. Have fun.
Today,
Aldred Offran's got a...
You're not casting that psychic power.
Exactly. Aldred Offran's got a free up invuln. Has he now? How about a 5? I would hate that personally as well, because I do love Aldred Offran, as is evident.
Maybe I need to paint up at least one squad of Exorcists.
That's it, mate. Add them to your collection. Come round and go, Dan, let's play a game. Use your Elder.
Go on.
Bam.
Go on, do it.
Yeah. Do it, I dare you.
Because this is the thing that what makes Exorcist really good is from a thematic and lore point of view, from an army collecting, it's like you can take an Inquisitor and some Exorcists as like a small little detachment, perfectly thematic and on point for them, because Inquisition are so like tied to the Exorcists, and then just sprinkle that into potentially an additional army. It's like, you don't get your super doctrine, but as you said, it's not like super great anyway, but you get then access to the cool relic pistol, and you get access to the ability just to deny psychic powers.
I mean, that ability to use to rotate back into your doctrine makes it better, because you can specialize with units that are going to, because you could potentially use the Devastator doctrine on that las cannon Contemptor 3 times in a game, because you can obviously use the turn 1. Turn 2, you can use your 1 CP stratagem, which you've already invested in, to rotate into it. And then turn 3, you can use the stratagem where it gains all 3 combat doctrines simultaneously. And then you could just be like, there you go. It's a lot of CP. Well, it's not a lot of CP. It's free CP to do it. But, it might make the difference, because you'll be taking chunks out of vehicles. I mean, that Contemptor Dreadnought could just be skulking around the backfield, blowing up vehicles all over the place.
Yeah, I've come across quite a few relic Contemptors with twin las cannons in my time. I think the last one was Shaggy from SM Battle Reports at No Retreat. And I think he had 2, and they were just like the worst things to go up against. And this was obviously when they've got Ballistic Skill 2 back in the old rules, and had, what did they have? Rerolls as well on top of that. And you're just like, this is not fun.
Yeah. And when you add in the fact that you can only wound them on 3 ups, now admittedly most of the time that's the case with Contemptors anyway, but say by some miracle you've got like volcano cannons, and even those are, wouldn't be winning them on 2s. I mean, it's interesting. I don't hate it. I at first I was a little bit torn on it, but actually I do think there's some options with it. But I would love to rock up to an event with it if Demons, Grey Knights, and Thousand Sons are like the thing,
the meta,
and just be like, hey, did anyone read this issue of White Dwarf? Caca!
Because the answer is no. I think most people aren't really. The one that most people seem to be aware of is the one we're about to talk about next, because there's just a bit of internet rage going on about it.
Well, I'm intrigued. I love a bit of internet rage, me. Tell me more, Phil. What is the source of the rage?
The source is issue 464, the issue that came into my hands this very day, because it is hot off the press. The postman delivered it to me. It is not Index Astartes, it's Index Hereticus, the Fallen. Those Dark Angel wannabes. So preface, this is very different. All the others were codex supplements. This is a specialist detachment, which we haven't seen one of those for some time, say back in Vigilus. And surprise, surprise, this is straight out of, or not an exact copy, but is very... Well, it is the same rules from Book 2 of Vigilus for the Fallen. It isn't a copy and paste job, though. They have reworded it all for the modern 9th edition parlance of the way of the speaking. So, they haven't been lazy in that respect. So that's credit to them.
Are you sure, Phil? I said to you before we started recording, but I'll say it again for, other people's benefits. This, reminds me of children doing their GCSEs in the late 90s, when they would go on to, popular encyclopedia software and then copy and paste the contents into a Word document and then change the words enough so as they might, somehow not be suspected of plagiarism. Was
this person you by any chance, Dan?
No. No, I was a good boy. I learned all of the things about... Exactly. People were doing it around me. I wasn't, I was not involved.
You didn't give into that peer pressure of the old Encyclopedia Britannica or whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly. In Carter or whatever it was
Carter.
called.
That's in Carter. Used to love it. Sticking that CD. Ooh, the world, your oyster.
Exactly. You go into that weird map mini game or whatever it was. It was a wonderful time. Yes. No. I mean, I feel like I have expressed as much as I need to on this topic, Phil. I will no further incriminate myself, nor the legitimacies of my GCSE grades.
Oh, fair enough. Should we get on? Should we go through the rules, even though people could probably listen to a very, very old podcast episode where we go... In fact, I don't know if we even went over the Vigilus stuff back in those days. So...
I think we might have done, but we probably just didn't care that much about the Fallen at the time. But, let's have a go. Let's see. Because, I like Dark Angels. So, it'd be nice. I mean, from a very early time, I loved the idea of having an army of Fallen. Like, there was always a sort of appeal to it. The problem is with it now at the moment is I always feel like the models don't really do what I want them to do. Like, they never quite have, they haven't really captured the magic of, that Chaos Space Marine-esque Dark Angel. I think there's definitely some cool iconography and some cool things that you can do. And I'd love to see them support this with more kind of like model kits or something quite specific. Because the Cypher model is gorgeous, but the rest of it is always a bit like, it's weird using the Horus Heresy stuff and all this sort of stuff. But anyway, tell me more, Phil.
Well, I think it was like when we were discussing the Dark Angels Codex, we were like, won't it be great when the Fallen gets a big thing, a big song and dance in the Chaos Codex? Won't that be great? So if they don't, and this is all they're getting, I guess that is going to be a bit disappointing. They do have a section on how to convert them up using a bunch of different models, which is quite cool. So they recommend Chaos Space Marines, Mark III Space Marines, Raven Wing Command Squad, Dark Angels Upgrade Pack, and Deathwing Terminator Squads to make all your various bits. Predominantly, the main body is the Mark III Space Marines, which, as we've talked about before, just look a bit derpy because the size is all off or just small in comparison to Primaris Marines, but they're okay, I guess, if that's what you want. It kind of accurately represents that they are trueborn and small.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be a way of making them look nicer, but we are where we are with that.
Exactly.
If you think they look good, then good for you. I don't. Everyone has their own opinions when it comes to this hobby. Much like those on the internet getting angry about whatever this is. Maybe I'll join you in a moment. I'm still out in the cold, so eager to learn more.
It's been a while, so do you want a refresh on the specialist detachment rules?
Well, may I try and summarize in my own stupid way?
Okay, go for it.
You take a regular detachment of any type. So let's say in this instance, you've taken a combined arms detachment, a battalion, and you have then decided to spend 1 command point to then add to that battalion a keyword or specific series of words that denotes that this is now a specialist detachment. And then any units within that detachment that are listed as part of the specialist detachment gains access to a new specialist detachment keyword, which in this instance I'm going to assume is fallen, and then they become fallen. And if they are fallen, they gain access to a bunch of stuff that is specified within said specialist detachment. Am I even close to correct?
No, you're pretty much right. There was only a few stipulations of each detachment stratagem can only be used once per battle. You can't upgrade auxiliary support attachments. And I think it says you can only upgrade each specialist detachment once. Why you'd want to do it multiple times, I don't know. But it says, and thus you cannot have multiple specialist detachment stratagems applied to it, even if it affects different units in that detachment. You are right. It's called Fallen Angels for 1 CP. Is your specialist detachment stratagem. Use a stratagem before the battle when mustering your army. You can include 1 Fallen Angel specialist detachment in your army. A Fallen Angel specialist detachment is a vanguard detachment that contains only fallen units, that's keyword fallen, sorcerer units, chaos rhino units. Sorcerer units in the Fallen Angel specialist detachment have the Mark of Chaos, Heretic, Astartes, and Legion faction keywords replaced with the Imperium and Fallen faction keywords. That's quite interesting. Have their Death to the False Emperor ability replaced with the Fallen Angels ability. See Codex, the Fallen Data Sheet in Codex Space Marines. The Chaos Rhino units similarly change the Mark of Chaos, Heretic, Astartes, and Legion rules for the Imperium and Fallen faction keywords. They have their transport capacity replaced with the following. This model has a transport capacity of 10 Fallen infantry models. It cannot transport jump packs, so obviously you can't have chaos guys riding around in your Rhino transports. And units in the Fallen specialist attachments gain the Fallen Angels keyword, which will apply to some stratagems and abilities.
I mean, all of that seems like it's new. I don't know if they gave the Imperium keyword in the world of old. I mean, that seems really interesting. I'm really curious what they're going for there.
I will double check. I did have a kind of relatively quick pass because I wanted to double check that it was correct, and I do have the Vigilus book, so I did check, and it pretty much was word for word very similar. So before it was take sorcerers or rhinos in a vanguard detachment, and you replace those keywords with Imperium and Fallen. It was basically the same thing.
Wow, all right. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, again, it becomes strange, doesn't it, then? So technically, and again, noting that you can't use these in, competitive settings, but the idea now that you can add a Fallen detachment to an Imperium army.
Well, I don't think you can, because it's effectively, this is the interesting thing, because surely when the Chaos book comes out, there will be Chaos specific, like super doctrines, where your detachment is only valid if it's got all Chaos in. So then taking Fallen that then gain the Imperium keyword would potentially break that, unless they're going to specifically stipulate that in the Chaos Codex, which, because I don't know what the keywords are for the Fallen in the Chaos book. Maybe they also have Imperium, in which case maybe it's not a problem. Because I do remember when this did come out, do you remember people were going, you do this, and all of a sudden a Chaos army can gain access to assassins because all you needed was the Imperium keyword, and then they FAQ'd that pretty quickly to be like, no, that's not what we mean. Don't try that.
I mean, in a way, though, that disappointed me that they went in favor of stopping Chaos Space Marine players from gaining access to agents of the Imperium, because I like the idea that, the dastardly nature of the Fallen, that they kind of convince, agents of the Imperium to partner with them, that they pose as, members of the Imperium, and, can end up in a situation where they've managed to commission an assassin to join their ranks. you know, I feel like that kind of added to some of the sort of dastardly elements of the list. But I can understand as well why they decided that that's not cool, because you can't have Chaos Space Marines having anything that's good. That would just be ridiculous.
Well, I'm almost surprised that Chaos don't have their own version of assassins at all.
I'm not.
Like,
yeah, I don't. I mean, they've got demons and stuff.
They
but,
don't need
you
it.
know, they've never. Yeah, it's a different type of army, man. Chaos Space Marines operate. When you read the lore and get into the weeds with what Chaos Space Marines are and why they're different from regular Space Marines, it all starts to make a great deal of sense as towards why they wouldn't have access to drop pods and all these other things, because they're just in a constant conflict to maintain their stuff against each other. It's very Lord of the Flies in the war.
I do remember there was that great meme that we saw a couple of years ago where it was like Abaddon's obviously, you know, we're calling the retreat from Terra, we're going back to the Eye, and all the other kind of Primarchs or captains are like, should we take these drop pods with us? And everyone's like, no, leave it behind. We don't need that. Should we take these assault cannons? Should we take them? No, don't worry. All these cool like Land Raider stuff. No, don't worry about all those things. And they've like, weirdly lost access to all of this cool stuff. But in a way, it's better because it makes the two armies much more distinct. Anyway.
But again, what I will say from a lore perspective is they can't even keep hold of their basic stuff, let alone the cool stuff. Like, you know, they're scavenging armor from the dead. You know, they literally, the very idea that you know, some warlord. I mean, fair enough, Horus might have access. Not Horus, sorry, Abaddon might have access to it. But bar him, no one's keeping hold of a drop pod anytime soon. I mean, the sheer resources involved in retrieving that and then maintaining it, priming it, keeping it. It's just, no, it's not happening. I mean, they're lucky if they've got a rhino.
Well, I think they're too busy summoning chaos demons to have picnics with than to, you know, applying correct purity seals to a rhino or a dreadnought or drop pod even to get it to work correctly.
But that's why their dreadnoughts have just, that's why there are, other than like some really, really like old relics that I presume in the lore have just kind of blipped out of reality and come back within the 41st millennia, because the idea that a flipping Contemptor dreadnought could have survived in the warp and not become a hell brute is just maddening. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like all their technology is just warped and decayed and destroyed as they exist in this weird thing. And, you know, I think it fits it. But the thing is that needs to be addressed with Chaos Space Marines is they need to offer them a meaningful alternative. There needs to be more work done to, because for a long time, it always just feels like, so Space Marines get all this cool stuff. Why don't Chaos Space Marines? Well, there's a reason. Okay, cool. But then what do we get?
Demons.
Good intentions. Demons. Yeah. Anyway, Cypher.
Cypher is included if he is included, he gains the following ability. He gets the Agent of Discord aura ability. While an enemy unit is within the Discord range of this model, that unit and any models it contains cannot make use of any abilities, warlord traits, or relics that allow your opponent to receive or refund command points. So while the models within 12 inches, if there's less than 10 models, less than 10 other Fallen Angel models to Cypher, this ability has a Discord range of 12 inches. If you have between 10 and 19 other Fallen Angels, the Discord range is 18 inches. And if you've got 20 or more Fallen Angel models, it becomes a range of 24 inches. It's quite big.
Nice. I mean, it's pretty good for no extra points, right?
Yeah, it's a nice. I like it. Like even the name Discord, it's like it's sowing the seeds of doubt amongst people and causing havoc, which is quite accurately represented. I sort of wish there was more abilities like this within codexes to have stuff like this. No, it's like a nice little cool thing.
And you know, being range 24 is pretty reasonable as well. And you forget Chaos Space Marine squads can just come in units of 20. So the idea of just being like, there you go, there's 20 Fallen.
Oh, really? Easy. Wow, that's cool. Old school style, I guess.
Oh yeah. So Chaos Space Marines are quite easy to get in abundance. So you could just literally do a patrol and take, one squad of 20 in Cypher, and you'd be benefiting from this.
True. Yeah.
At a 24-inch range, which is pretty good.
Yeah. We've got some stratagems. We've got without a trace for 1 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select 1 Fallen Angels unit from your army that is entirely on or within a terrain feature. Until the end of that phase, each time an enemy model makes an attack against that unit, subtract 1 from the attacker's hit roll.
Sure, fine, yeah. Cool. Not great, but not bad.
-1 to hit.
It's good.
Yeah, it's not bad. You do have to be on terrain or within it, I guess, which gives you some tactical limitations. But then you're getting a cover save as well, so, extra durable.
Exactly. Double bubble.
Yeah. And then the last stratagem, because there's only 2, is Ancient Enmity for 1 CP. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Fallen Angels unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack against a Dark Angels unit, you can reroll the wound roll. A bit like the Exorcist, very thematic, but very niche in terms of who you're going to use against, because it only works against Dark Angels.
I mean, fortunately, there's going to be a lot of Dark Angels around for a while, so potentially there's some use there. But if you're going up against Deathwing Terminators with a unit of Chaos Space Marines, I mean, good luck to you. That's all I can say. Because, a unit of 1 wound Space Marine scrubs against the Emperor's Finest clad in Terminator armor with 3 wounds that you can only wound on 4s. Yeah, those Stormbolters are just going to eat you alive, and that's terrifying.
Future-proofing, once, Chaos Space Marines do get 2 wounds, then maybe this will be better whenever that day will come.
2023.
Yes. Exactly, and all the Chaos players have got dust on them.
I genuinely believe that the Chaos Space Marines are not going to get... I genuinely believe Chaos Space Marines are going to get the last update. I believe it's going to be an update that's worth the wait, but I do feel like if you are a main, Chaos Space Marine player, you're going to have a rough couple of years, I reckon.
Oh, gosh. I would like to think they will replicate the Marine release sort of around Christmas time, but they do it with all the... they basically do a bunch of supplements. So they do the Chaos Marine book, and then, if they're sensible, do a bunch of little supplements for some of the legions. But maybe they won't, because actually all the big legions, like Death Guard, get their own codex, right? So maybe they won't.
Who knows? I suppose that's the thing. We know that Thousand Suns are on their way, so I suppose it depends what type of Chaos Space Marine player you are. But
that's true.
Yeah, I think
I'm still holding out for Emperor's Children and Primarch Fulgrim at some point.
I do. That's the thing, though. I think that's the hilarious thing is we'll probably see all of that come out, and then after all of that's happened, then they'll go. So once they've done Emperor's Children, World Eaters, then they'll go. And Chaos Space Marines, and it'd be like, oh, okay, good. Now I've got some stuff. But
yes,
I suppose at that point you're kind of just making up of a bunch of other things. Relics, Phil. Relics.
Yeah, well, the one and only relic, the Caliban Steel Blade, a model equipped with a 4 sword only, replaces it with the following profile. It's a melee weapon, surprise, surprise. Strength user, -3 AP, D3 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, on a wound roll of 6+, the attack has a damage characteristic of D6. Which is pretty cool, but does actually show the age of this rule, because you won't really, in a 9th edition book, get a weapon like this that is a D3 damage and a D6 damage. It would probably be flat 3 damage and, I don't know, D3 plus 3 or something.
Yeah.
Because it's so swingy that both of the damage profiles are so random, which you don't really get as much nowadays. You still do with some weapons like las cannons, but close combat weapons tend to be a bit more flat damage.
Yeah, because when you consider now that a 4 sword is still damage free in the Chaos Space Marine book, actually. Damage D3 in the Chaos Space Marine book.
Well, that's because that's an old Chaos Space Marine book.
Yeah, I'm just checking the Primaris Librarian. His 4 sword is also damage D3.
So it is kind of correct in that respect.
But again, each time an attack is made with this weapon on a wound roll of a 6+. So actually, as well, what's interesting about that and what really tells you that it's an old rule is that it's not an unmodified 6+. So you can use things to add to the plus to wound in order to increase it. But for the life of me, I can't think of what is available to you to do that in Chaos Space.
True, and that ability in particular, I did double check that one. That one did get reworded from the Vigilus one. So as you say, it's a bit odd that they didn't include the unmodified, but maybe that's deliberate because they do want you to be able to modify it because it's such a rarity.
They want to give you something. They want to just give you a little
give you some
something.
hope.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? I mean, we can go through the 4 that we talked through. We opened up with Tome Keepers, which were 4 unique characters that had some interesting options, but I'm probably not going to fall over myself to use them. It's cool that it's White Dwarf. It's cool that it's Thing, but I would say they are the worst of the Space Marine things that we talked about. Then we had the Emperor's Spears that immediately started to, trigger a number of exciting opportunities and options that I was actually quite excited to discuss. And I thought, actually, there's some good things there. And then we had the Exorcists, which, though very matchup dependent, if you find yourself in a matchup scenario where they are useful, they truly are useful. And then to cap it all off, we had the Fallen, which it's just really underwhelming, isn't it? It's a real shame. It's a real shame because clearly what Games Workshop has done for us over the last 2 iterations of these indexes is show us a lot of love for the Loyalist Marines and coming up with some really fun, thematic, original documents that just give us something that we hadn't expected. And, they are pretty great. Not the best, but they're pretty great. Yeah, the fact that this is an updated reprint of old rules is one thing, but then the fact that the rules are just really underwhelming is also a bit sad. I can understand where the frustration comes from. This really doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen comments on both sides online. Some people are like, "Oh, well, this is good because I wanted to get the Fallen, and now I know I can just carry on with my current army and not bother because it's that bad." I've seen other people go, "Well, actually, this is quite good. If you didn't buy the Vigilus book and you can't buy it now, this is still a great thematic way to play your army." And obviously, the niche of the competitive market, the competitive mindset is, this doesn't work for only one thing, and that's the GT mission pack and potentially other mission packs, but I think it's predominantly the GT one, which stipulates no special detachments. And I guess Crusade. I don't think Crusade allows you to do specialist detachments as well. So therefore, completely ignore what I was about to say, because I was going to say this is great for narrative games and allows you to do stuff, but maybe not. Unless, of course, Crusade allows it. I don't think it does, though.
I think Crusade will allow it because Crusade operates within the kind of, it dials into all the different things, but regardless of whether it does or it doesn't, I just don't understand why anyone would do it. It's sort of like, to me, it's like, if you want to do the Fallen and you want to use them as Chaos Space Marines, there's loads of Chaos Space Marine rules that you can use to, better represent and better have a, fun time playing your army than trying to shoehorn them in around this. Cypher is a gorgeous model, and it's a real shame that they haven't done him justice since his arrival. Cypher's always been a really consistently interesting character within the 40k game. It's just a bit of a shame that he's not nearly as much of a factor as you'd want him to be at this moment in time. So yeah, I don't know. Genuinely, in terms of my pecking order for what we've just talked about, for me, Exorcists were the best. Emperor's Spears, Keepers Keepers of Tome or Tome Keepers, and then way down Fallen. Like, it's just, in terms of what they've given us from a rule set perspective, the Fallen are just
bad. I mean, would it have been that bad for them to take out the specialist attachment and just go, it's a codex supplement like the Space Marine ones? Is it because they don't want Chaos to have Chaos supplements because they're meant to operate in a very different way from Space Marines. And as we were just saying, like, Death Guard 1,000 Suns, they're not supplements, they're their own books, they're their own codexes, right? So maybe that might be a reason, weirdly, why they don't want this to be a kind of codex supplement, because Chaos don't do that. Can be maybe my guess. So they've just gone, yeah, it's a specialist attachment thing. It does seem disappointing. It's a bit disappointing, especially if you want to play them in match play. Not that the rules are maybe that good to even warrant playing them in match play, but yeah, it's like you've got the least amount of stratagems and relics. There wasn't even a warlord trait in there. You've got the ability for Cypher, so you've got one very specific to him, which I guess makes sense because ultimately, if you're playing the Fallen, he would be your warlord, and why would you have anyone else, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it would have been great if they just added, even if it was still a specialist attachment, they just gone, yeah, here's a couple more relics, here's a couple more stratagems, just to bulk it out to match how the Index Astartes are looking.
I think the thing that's added to the hilarity of the whole thing is when you consider how rich and deep the new Dark Angel rule set is as well. And I think a lot of people who have Fallen collections were probably thinking, are we going to see Dark Angels rules that cross over into Chaos that give me more, flexibility? Could I be looking at taking Chaos Space Marine Terminators that are essentially like Deathwing Terminators, noting that the Fallen wouldn't necessarily have Deathwing, or rather they do have a Deathwing, but, their Deathwing wouldn't necessarily be stoked in the same kind of traditions, in the sense that they won't have experienced that whole sequence of events where they started painting their armor white and whatever. But the point is that even regardless of all that stuff, give us something that, give the Fallen players something that means that they can have like a Deathwing style unit, not Ravenwing, because Ravenwing is specifically there to hunt the Fallen. But again, it's like when the problem is we're in that unique period of time right now where Chaos Space Marines are super bad and Space Marines are really good, and then Dark Angels are very, very good versions of them. And it's maddening, I think, to people to be in a situation where the ancient version of Dark Angels that were, fighting their way through the heresy and are, thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, like incredible veterans, are nowhere near as good as recent, recruits. And that's the thing. It's a shame.
Yeah.
We're in a weird place.
I think it's a bit of a Krieg effect. I think it was. What's disappointing is the fact that what everyone wanted in their heads was like, oh, I want a codex supplement, I want all these cool rules, I want new models, and it's like, no, you're just not getting any of that. It's like a statement of intent from Games Workshop of, yeah, there's not really going to be any new Fallen stuff in the new Chaos Codex. I mean, it might do. Maybe this is just a holdover, but it almost feels like this is what the Fallen is for 9th edition. Sorry, lads, that's all it's going to be.
Yeah, no,
which is a bit disappointing. Yeah, I think that's
massively
the kicker. I think really.
Yeah, I am. I'm sad to see it, but whatever, eh? We are where we are.
What they need to do, if you've got a Fallen army, spray it red. You got a great Exorcist army. That's what you need to do.
Indeed. Cool. All right, mate. Well, there we go. Thank you very much for that. That was much more enjoyable than I ever imagined it would have been. Let's move on now to the next segment, shall we? Transitional noise. Woo! All right, guys. In this part of the podcast, myself and Phil are going to have a general state of the hobby discussion. What's going on with us at the moment? What we're planning to do potentially in the not too distant future, where hopefully, the British Isles are a little more, secure, and we might be able to venture out into the world once again. What's going on with us and our Warhammer 40,000 hobby? How's it going, Phil? How's it going for you in terms of all things 40k at the minute?
Well, I'm in this this slow slog of a painting session, trying to paint up 30 Primaris intercessors at the moment. And I started off with vigor. I've hit the wall where I'm like, dear God, I'm losing the will somewhat. But I'm slowly getting there. I've done all the armor color, all the bronze for my Minotaurs. I've done all that bit, done all the edge highlighting, which took forever. I've currently painted up all the guns. I'm currently just edge highlighting the black on the gun casings. And that is, just a bit tiresome now at this point, because it's like been well over like a month and a bit. So once I get that done, it'll be smooth sailing, hopefully, with just the little bits of details to add in and stuff like that.
I mean, you do like to make these things almost unnecessarily hard for yourself in some respects, Phil. You definitely push yourself to a level of quality, potentially unnecessary for what is essentially your bog standard line trooper.
No, I know. I just can't help it though. And weirdly, I feel like I'm putting more effort into these, even though I was meant to do these quicker. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. I mean, I've made savings here and there, but I've then kind of gone and decided, I'll do some extra bits on them. So, for example, originally I was just going to paint them all bronze. So all the helmets, they're just bronze. That was going to be quite straightforward. The shoulder pads are at some point going to be red. Because some of the Minotaurs do have red shoulder pads, some of them don't. But then I decided, because what I like to do is base the style of it on the Games Workshop sort of official sort of artwork, or not artwork, the photos on the website and stuff, the beauty shots of the box artwork. And I did that for the Inceptors, which is the first lot of Minotaurs that I painted up. So things like on the backpacks, for example, the rim of the vents are all silver, and then the kind of blocky vents at the very bottom are all silver as well. So I was like, okay, I'll paint all of mine silver as well to match, because that's sort of the same logic of what bits are, your chapter color versus what bits are metal. I did with the Inceptors. So I was like, I'll be consistent. I'll do that with these guys. But that obviously added like a week and a bit's worth of work just doing all of that.
Well, there you go, mate. These punishing things that you do to yourself in the pursuit of perfection, eh?
Well, yeah. I mean, I could have gone all out, and that's not something I have done, because if you look at the actual box artwork, it's like the backpack behind the head, there's a load of cabling, which are all painted silver. And then on the helmets, it's like the sort of side cables and the ear muffler bits are all painted silver as well. And so I haven't done that. So to an extent, I've made it quicker.
Does it wake you up at night in hot sweats, Phil? Are you haunted by this lack of attention to detail?
No, I think one of the other troubles I'm currently gripped with is the style of the squad markings, because I've technically done them incorrect for my first batch that was the Inceptors. So the Minotaur chapter tends to have a white outlined symbols. So, for example, if you've got your fast attack, for example, it's like your troops is your big arrow, isn't it? So normally that's like a solid color, but for Minotaurs it's meant to be just like an outlined white border. It can be sometimes black according to the law, but all the artwork is weirdly white or gold. So it should be white, but I don't have white ones. So when I was doing my first test mini and the Inceptor ones, I used the sort of bog standard transfers that came with the kit that were all solid. So I'm a bit like, do I source these outlined ones and then redo those models, or, which is what I'm currently thinking, I will just say, because I want a lot of my models to represent the reserve companies, so I'll just say in my own headcanon that these reserve companies are somewhat distinguished from the regular companies by having solid solid squad transfers as opposed to the outlined ones. This is the things that do keep me up awake at night, which I know is mad to you probably, because you'd just be up, just do whatever, put it on, shouldn't matter.
Well, I mean, no, I think obviously I actually really admire the fact that you have such dedication to your craft that you will go to what I would consider unnecessary lengths to, get exactly what you want. I like the idea that you sort of said that very weirdly, but I like the idea that you always kind of seek out kind of order and, constructs around your paint schemes and your hobby, that you're never satisfied until you've, meticulously researched every actual, paint scheme and its origins and, launched your own comparisons. I mean, what was quite funny, and obviously something that I imagine you will not be able to resist sharing with the wider world at some point is I've just been, treated to what was potentially quite an obsessive, visual graph, visual aid that Phil has constructed today to work out which Terminator is the biggest. And I kid you not, listeners, Phil has actually gone through and painstakingly sized up all of the different Terminators just to arrive at the conclusion that we all knew going into it, which is Space Marine Heroes Series 2 are the biggest Terminators. Unless, of course, Phil, your research yielded any other more exciting results.
Well, this is like part of a much wider discussion about true scale Terminators, and I have to blame you for this basically, because I never really wanted my force to be a firstborn army. I mostly wanted it to be Primaris. But there is something about Terminators that is iconic, and I think you saying that repeatedly to me over many a podcast episode has made me convinced that actually I'm deeply in love with Terminator armor and I need to get some. But then you arrive at the problem of most of the regular Terminators minis just don't hold up against a Primaris model because the Primaris range is just so much bigger. And then I was going like, well, how can I resolve this? Can I somehow find models that just so happen to be a bit bigger? Or would I need to look into kit bashing a like true scale Terminator? So I went down the rabbit hole of researching all of that and see how people have done it, because there's a variety of different techniques for doing it. But as you said, the one that we suspected was the Space Marine Season 2 Heroes range, which are Blood Angel Terminators, but I guess you could paint them up as anything because they're not particularly Blood Angels, but that's just how they're marketed as. Downside is
they're not actually Blood Angels at all, Phil. They're just painted them that way.
Red
on the
generic
box.
Marines, yes, which is interesting because obviously they always sell Marines on artwork as Ultramarines. So it's interesting with this, they've deviated off and gone, no, they're Blood Angels. Ah. Maybe it's because it was originally for the Japanese market, so maybe that's more thematic for them.
Well, potentially, but also Series 1 was Ultramarine paint scheme, so I guess they were like, well, we got to do another chapter. And I guess in the world of, like other supporting Games Workshop media, games like Space Hulk, for example, have always, over the last 30 or so years, portrayed the Blood Angels as the main protagonist of that series of games. So, yeah, I can understand why if you've got Terminators, you would just paint them red. But, yeah, they could have just as easily been any series of colours.
Well, that's true.
Red was where they landed.
But yes, as you can confirm, because you own some of them, they are slightly bigger than regular Terminators. And as my photoshopped, as accurate as I can make it, comparison sort of table almost visual guide is they are a bit bigger. There are others that are similar or bigger. What I did is I sort of did go on, sorry.
I was going to say, we presume, we got.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, it's one of these things.
You don't like me challenging the accuracy of your graph at this point. You're like, no, Dan.
The graph is as accurate as I can make it. However, most of the photos are taken at a consistent sort of angle, but not all of them. So some are slightly angled higher. So you can't really line up everything. So what I've tried to do is find the middle ground, either on the base or like between the 2 feet. So you get a relatively central baseline position as your marker that you all line them up to. So some bases, if they're on a rock or something, you'd move the image up or down slightly. And then I've done my sort of baseline marker for height. I've done at the Primaris Intercessor eye level, just so then I can compare if a piece of Terminator armor is slightly taller or shorter. So I think one of the biggest that you can get is the Legio Custodes Aquilon Terminators from Forge World. And someone else pointed me into that direction yesterday on Instagram, because someone's done a conversion of them where they've like trimmed off all the regalia, because they are like the beefiest ones I think you can get, but they're very expensive and you only get them in sets of 3 and have kind of limited weapon options. And I don't know. I think that one's a bit unreasonable to do as a conversion. Partly also, like, I don't like the vent style at the back is very kind of curved, and it's sort of overall the mark of the armor is sort of woefully different from the standard Indomitus armor. And isn't it interesting that regular armor is called Indomitus, and that's the Indomitus Crusade? It's like they recycle good words.
They do like the reuse of good words, as you put it. Although, again, though, within the confines of your army, your aspirations, these certainly deliver in terms of what your kind of overarching army aesthetic is going to potentially be. They've got their cheruges. It's quite weird though, right? Because they obviously look quite tall, but they also, when you sort of see them in their rotating thing, there's some points on the model where they look quite, I don't know, quite flat in some respects. They're not quite as maybe it's just the even the 360-degree photo not doing it justice, but you could very comfortably imagine using these guys as a regular Terminator squad if scale was something that you were looking to settle. But as you say, Phil, to take a unit of 5 of these guys is going to cost you £102.
I know. That's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, it's pretty pricey. Plus, I don't know what you're supposed to do from a weapon perspective, because they all seem to be armed with flamers, unless there's different flavors of them. There is. There's a Volkite variant.
Yeah, I think things like arms you can just get away with using regular Terminator weapons, and that the sizes will marry up slightly, I think.
Yeah, you've got these ones here with the Volkite and Power Fist. So yeah, you could have the Power Fist and then just do a gun arm swap, I suppose, which would do the job, mate. I mean, it would look pretty fantastic. I personally think, Phil, this is exactly the direction you should go with this. I wholeheartedly support your desire to buy these guys.
Well, yes.
That's what you want.
Well, so what's interesting is, so Minotaurs in the lore, they're mostly known for having Tartarus Terminator armor, which is what I was leaning for originally. But then there's also a reference, good old Alan Bly. They also have Arcanak pattern Terminator armor, which there's one reference to it in the Badab War book, that they just have lots of it. And nothing, never see what it looks like. No one knows what it is. So potentially I could go down the route of taking the Custodes armor, converting it slightly, and then calling it the Arcanak pattern. So I can sort of justify in my head that this is for why it looks so different from standard Indomitus armor. Although, as you said, the Space Marines Heroes line does look pretty good.
It looks great, to be fair. It's the only issue you got with that line is that, again, taking a squad sergeant is a bit of a bugger, because there's no power sword sergeants. So if you were going to do it, you would have to get a power sword arm from somewhere, or you would have to take them as assault terminators, where there are Thunderhammer. Well, the squad sergeant from the Heroes range is wielding a Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. So you could essentially build out an assault squad from that. But again, you would need to get some more Thunderhammer Storm Shield arms, because there's only 2 Thunderhammer Storm Shields in the whole thing. 1 Lightning Claw model. And then there's like 2 generic Power Fist Stormbolter guys. So you have to do a bit of a bit of mucking around to make the squads work.
Yeah, I would have thought with those again, the arms and the weapons at least would be completely compatible with the regular Terminator range. So that should be.
I believe so. Yeah. So
relatively
with my
straightforward.
ones, I did do an arm swap with the power sword guy. So I took the Thunderhammer Storm Shield Sergeant and changed him out for a bolter and a power sword. I used one of the bolter arms from one of the other Space Marine heroes, and then I used a power sword arm. The most difficult thing to get your hands on, bizarrely, in the world of Terminators is the Terminator shoulder pad with the Crux Terminatus on it. That's the thing that is really weirdly difficult to get hold of.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Although, go on.
No, I was going to say, I mean, you can obviously just, buy the miniatures separately on eBay, and and it doesn't cost a huge amount more. But yeah, those Crux Terminatus shoulder pads are the things that are actually quite weirdly difficult to find, because there's no extras of them in any of the kits that are out there. They only ever give you exactly what you need. Even in like the Deathwing Terminator kit, they don't give you extras of those. They give you like different types of Dark Angel symbol for the right arm, but they don't give you any more of those Crux Terminators.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you got one, I could probably make like a press mold, and then have green stuff and then add that to a regular shoulder pad potentially. I do like so on the Badab War Book 1 cover is Carib Cullen. And he's got a very distinct pattern of Terminator armor, which I really like. It's a bit like Terminator armor inspired by Mark IV marine armor, but his shoulder pads are very much like the Gravis pauldrons with the really like raised rim, and it's like, oh, actually I'd really like to convert some to look like that, because that's, I don't know, the artwork looks better than the original model that Forge World created, but the Forge World model obviously doesn't exist anymore. And a bit like, to an extent, the Japanese hero range season 2, so pretty hard to get hold of now as well. So I've sort of missed the boat potentially on that one.
Yeah, Space Marine Heroes Series 2 is quite hard. I believe the box game with all the different heavy weapons and stuff is readily available still through some specialist retailers in the UK, but I don't think, the actual...
it was the game sells like a boxed game, which had those Terminators in. It didn't have the captain in, though, did it? I think it was just
the captain is very hard to get your hands on if you want the captain.
Yeah, because there's the captain, and then the even harder one is the Terminator Ancient, because that was only available with the paint set. So apparently that's just impossible to get hold of. The captain. So the one lead I have to getting a set with the captain is basically there's a 40k looting group on Facebook, which basically is if there's a rare sort of thing being sold on like an anniversary day or something, someone will just go, oh, if anyone wants them, I'll buy them for you and sort of ship them to you at sort of face value, so you're not being scalped basically. And there's a guy who lives over in Japan where they still sell them apparently with the captain. So yeah.
Well, if it'll make your day, Phil, you can just make me an offer for the captain. It's fine.
No. Well, I guess this is a problem. It's like I'm getting quite obsessed about it, but at the same time, I've got so much marine stuff to get through before I even get to the Terminator.
You see what he's doing there, listeners, right? I make him a nice offer. He's out there chasing after this captain. I own him. Well, I don't necessarily need him.
Surely yours is pre-built, right?
Of course it is.
Well, exactly. That's I like my nuance brew. Well, because I might potentially convert them up in some fashion.
What are you going to convert them up into?
I don't know, just change bits on the armor, or maybe change the pose, for example.
You do that while it is, just take it apart and put it back together again.
Well, that's true.
It's fine, Phil. The offer is has now been retracted
after your already. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm deeply hurt.
Snubbed you.
You have, basically. You're making all this song and a dance about willing to go to Japan or something, and I'm just like, well, mate, make me a reasonable offer, you can have mine. Nah, not interested. I understand. I've got, mate, if you want to get really weird, I've got the Space Marine Captain that was limited edition towards the end of 7th edition.
In Terminator armor.
In Terminator armor with the grenade launcher on his power fist.
Well, I'll be interested to see what it looks like, just out because I don't actually recall.
I haven't assembled that one.
Like.
It is on its sprue.
Brilliant. But then he'd be
still in its blister.
the old style, slightly small Terminator.
I don't know if that's technically true.
Well, you say that. So in my graph, actually, it seems like the Death Watch captain in Terminator armor is a bit bigger than the older ones, and I think that was a general thing with the Death Watch range. So that they, even the standard like Mark 8 Terminators,
the Death Watch the Death Watch captain is not a Death Watch captain, though. You do know that. It's just a standard Space Marine captain in Terminator armor.
Yes, with an upgrade sprue.
Swap.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know, I did suspect that might be the case. But weirdly, it seems a bit bigger.
Well, Phil, as I say, I've got that one, I'm just throwing it out there, saying words, see if anything appeals to you.
Okay.
In my horde of things that I have. I bought, weirdly, I could only find, because I really wanted the chaplain in Terminator armor, and I could only find the chaplain in Terminator armor with the captain. So I just bought the both of them. And it cost me a pretty penny, but I really wanted that chaplain, and I now have him. I also, Phil, have a metal sculpt chaplain in Terminator armor that I just paint stripped the other day. So again,
fresh.
You need only make me a compelling offer.
That's true. And as I mentioned last week, I've got somewhere some super old metal grey knight in Terminator armor. They were quite fancy back in the day.
He never wants to talk the business, does he? He's always he's happy to give the money to others. I get it. It's fine.
Not live on air. It just cuts
not live on air.
Cut it afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. There we go. On air. We're not even on air, mate. It's recorded.
I mean, but if you didn't want to go down the Space Marine heroes route, I think you've got a few options. The classic method is to make true scale Terminators. You could, I think people might add little spacers in at the waistline and the knees and at the feet, or sort of at the thighs, to make, because I think quite often it's the legs that are a bit short for Terminators. So I think that's one way to do it. The other option, I think, is the Chaos Space Marine range is a bit bigger as well. So you got those new sort of standard Indomitus Terminators that are a bit bigger. They seem pretty decent. Or you've got the Nurgle range of Terminators, which are mahoosive because they are really big. But I think with those, you've got so many gribbles and tentacles, trying to remove them to go back to sort of like their original armor. While a cool, fun project that would be, will just be a real pain to actually do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, mate, I just pay whatever it costs to get hold of a box of Space Marine heroes and take it from there.
I know. The thing is, I really like the Tartarus armor and the Cataphracti.
Oh yeah, it's just too small.
Well, no, I know that's the problem. There's Cataphracti sort of wide enough, so they seem bulky and they are a bit bigger. The Tartarus ones are miniature. They just seem really small in comparison.
Yeah, I've got a squad of those guys, and yeah, they were sort of, they're just really diddy. I mean, there is an argument for taking the old relic Terminators only because of the fact that you could do the Lightning Claw Stormbolter combo, which is probably one of the better loadout options for Terminators, and something maybe you'd want to explore if you're gonna go to town doing a bit of a custom job on them. But yeah, I don't think the scale differs massively between the Forge World versions of Terminators either, does it? Like, there's no real Forge World methodology for getting something a bit more impressive, unless I'm wrong about that.
Well, so on my little scale comparison, there's a Blood Angel, I think he's like a captain in Tartarus armor, and that appears to be a lot bigger than the standard plastic Terminator armor, and I don't believe that's correct. And I think that's just like a weird thing with how
I own that guy as well, Phil. I can give you an actual size comparison for it.
Oh, do you? Oh, well, by all means. Because I was watching a video yesterday where someone was talking about the Forge World Terminators, and he was convinced that basically they've reused some of the effectively like the CAD plastic components and just added extra detail onto them. I think he was comparing the White Scar Tartarus armor ones with the standard plastic ones, basically saying they're exactly the same. And he was like, oh, this isn't very good for what you're paying, because all they've done is taken this and added some extra bits to it.
That being said, have you looked at the Crimson Paladins?
Which ones are they?
The Blood Angel Specialist Terminator Squad.
Yeah, I think so.
From Horus Heresy, the Crimson Paladins. I feel like the Crimson Paladins meet your needs perfectly.
Oh, well, let me quickly look them up.
5 minutes later.
So have you had a look at the Crimson Paladins, Phil?
I have. The reason why I didn't see them before is because when you search the word Terminators on Forge World, these guys don't come up, even though they're clearly Terminators.
Quite clearly. They look like they should be quite tall.
They do, but even the Tartarus Terminators look like they should be quite tall until you actually see them next to something.
I mean, controversially, I don't own that unit, so I can't give you a size comparison.
You don't own these guys. I thought you own everything.
No, not everything. I have a Blood Angels army which has elements from it, or rather elements in it that are made up of like Horus Heresy models. But regrettably, I do not have those guys. I am really, really interested in getting a unit of Legion Inner Circle Knights. They look phenomenal. Have you seen those, Phil?
I have, actually. They are pretty tasty. They're very Black Templars to me, so I'd feel a bit bad getting them for Minotaurs. I do like the look of the Iron Hands. They're like Legion Gorgon Terminators. Maybe not for shoulder pads, but I quite like that kind of sparse utilitarian look that they do have on their armor, which is very sort of in keeping with Primaris, I think, overall. So
there was
cool.
There was a short story in one of the Heresy books about those guys and how they kind of marched to war alongside. In fact, no, actually, it wasn't even a short story. It was in I'm pretty sure it was in a story about the Emperor's Children. I've just forgotten the name of the Primarch of the Emperor's Children, but his book, I think.
Fulgrim.
Fulgrim, thank you. And there's a sequence where these Iron Hand Terminators are facing off against the Emperor's Children, and it is rather wonderful. But you don't or haven't yet gotten around to reading or listening to any Horus Heresy yet, Phil, so I shan't say any more.
No, it's on my list. I'm currently reading or listening to the Indomitus Crusade books, the Fire Over something or other. I honestly can't remember as we speak.
Fire Over something or other. Someone's on fire. We left the turkey in the oven too long. Now look at it. Ruined.
It's Avenging Sun, but it's the Dawn of Fire audiobook, and I think that's the name of the series.
There you go. So the only thing you got right in that instance was the word fire. Nothing else.
No.
All right, well, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, where, 40k novels are concerned, there are certain keywords that you can always just chuck around. The book of fighting. Yeah, it'll be in there somewhere. I mean, in the broader sense, though, around hobbying fun and things that are going on. I mean, one of the things that's really interesting and really exciting to me after Games Workshop's Warhammer Fest Online was the notion that very soon we might be returning to a world where Warhammer World events will be coming back, which is potentially really exciting. I think the thing that I'm really intrigued by is what the timeline will be between Warhammer World saying, hey, we're opening our doors again, to their first event actually starting. Because one of the things that was starting to get quite frustrating for a while, or certainly towards the end of, the time before the pandemic, was that Games Workshop had actually fallen into a weird routine where they were announcing stuff super late and then tickets were selling super quick. And the time between booking an event and going to an event was becoming shorter and shorter. And it sort of removed some of the general excitement of the experience. Like, what I like about Warhammer World events is the whole kind of like build up to, and the a lot of the elements that come into it. And I feel like you need at least like 6 months to truly do Warhammer World events right, because obviously it's a lot of money, it's a lot of commitment to, get together as a group, get the hotels, get the tickets, build the armies. But if you've got a nice 6-month timeline, you can it's something that you and your friends can really build towards and chat about. And sure, there's lots of other one-day competitive tournament events, but they don't really have that kind of grandiose scale as going up to Warhammer World and involving that side of things. So I'm really curious to see if Warhammer World starts reopening, how they're going to tackle that, because it would seem reasonable to me to assert that they're going to want to start getting people back in relatively quickly. So it's going to be interesting to see how that timeline works, but also how difficult it's going to be to get tickets for those events when they start coming back, because towards the end of towards the end of the pandemic times or the beginning of the pandemic times, getting a ticket in early 2020 for anything was near impossible, right, Phil? I mean, they were selling out like that.
Yeah, I think it's like the fact that 8th edition is so popular, it's then made more people not just want to go to tournaments, but especially to Warhammer World tournaments in the UK, because it's like the place to go to. So yeah, that's why they were just running so many events, or like their grand tournament series would have, was it like 4 heats or more, maybe, to like allow everyone to actually come along and play. So it'll be interesting to see, how big these events are actually going to be able to be. I sort of feel like Games Workshop, out of everyone, especially the sort of standard tournament circuit, is going to be a lot more cautious, because other events have already announced dates for like September and August, or even sooner, with the assumption that they're going to go ahead if and when. I think Games Workshop's being super cautious and basically going, we're just going to wait and see. We're not going to take any risks. I sort of really doubt there'll be any this year at all at this rate. If there are, it's going to be December time when they might start.
Maybe. I mean, that assertion conflicts with what they broadly stated during their Warhammer Fest. So, again, obviously, I can't speak with absolute certainty that it's going to be happening sooner rather than later, but it was heavily implied that events will be coming back soon.
Well, that's true. I mean, it might be they're just going to do it all last minute, so they've sort of got it planned. They're not going to announce anything because they don't want to announce it, people to buy tickets, and then the sort of lockdown requirements to not go ahead or to change dates. So it might be in a month's time or 2 months' time, for example. If such gatherings are allowed, they will suddenly go like, yep, there's some for a month's time, buy your tickets straight away. As you sort of hinted at, there was they did have a habit of announcing tickets and just saying they're on sale with no build up or announcements. And what they used to do is give you a good few weeks notice of they're going to be on sale at this time on this day, so we could all sort of gather around the laptops or your computers and frantically click to try and buy tickets for the whole group. So when they haven't done that, and it's only by luck that we've seen a post like on Facebook, for example, that the tickets are on sale, that it's meant that either we've just bought tickets. I know Richie a few times has just gone, right, I've just bought tickets for the group, so like done. Because otherwise you've got to kind of just quickly message everyone and be like, oh, who wants to do this? Some people won't reply back, and then by the time you have decided whether you actually want to go as a group or not, the tickets have just sold out because they're just that popular. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how popular they'll be, because I think a bunch of people will be really cautious about just going to events in general, which is completely fair enough. But then I think there's a real thirst for 40k and events. So I imagine there's a bunch of people just biting at the bit to
chomping at the bit.
Chomping at the bit to go along.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely true. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see how that goes. I think, again, it's just that thing, right? I really hope they don't come out and go, hey, tickets are on sale, and then they all sell out, and then they're tickets for like a thing that's happening in 2 weeks. Because part of the magic of the Warhammer World events is having that build, as I say. That's the fun. And here's the thing, right? When you and I started getting more seriously back into the hobby, or I suppose I was much more in the hobby before you got seriously back into it. But whatever the case, you know, when you and I first went to a Warhammer World event together, was in like 2012, 2013. Back then, you could procrastinate as much as you wanted because those tickets weren't going anywhere. Like, you know, I don't think in between 2012 and between 2012 and like 2017, 2016, prior to 8th edition, we never had a hard time getting tickets for anything we wanted to go to. And I don't think we ever went to anything that sold out. Maybe one or two things, but very few.
Well, it might be they sold out, but then they never felt like they were at full capacity because you always had dropouts, for example. Yeah. So if it was a 100-person event, you know, 80 people would turn up or 90 people would turn up. It's back in those days. I think that the few that did sell out were weirdly things like the narrative events, because they did some like cool free swag that you would get when you go along to those ones. So I think those ones are probably more popular, or because back in those days it was the Throne of Skull events that were the competitive ones, which was then super confusing because I think in 8th edition they swapped it around and they had the GT, and then Throne of Skull was the for funsies events instead. But I
mean, again, I'm excited to start returning to events potentially. I mean, I've got the guys down at Entoyment are running or planning to run a small tournament at the end of May. So Adam, who's running that, got in contact with me, and I've got tickets for that. So looking forward to going along to that. And then see what the rest of the year brings. I did buy tickets for the London Grand Tournament. I'm in two minds whether I'm going to actually go to that or not, but I do have tickets to attend it.
Oh yeah, because you got doubles tickets with Joe, right?
No. I just literally got single tickets. I just went, I'll do that.
Oh, you're not? I thought you're doing the doubles as well.
I wanted to, but you know, Joe, mate, he's so unreliable.
No, because I got tickets for Richie and me to do the doubles because I thought that's what you were doing.
Oh, well, there you go. I better try and, maybe you and I could do the doubles on the Friday night.
Well, I think Richie will have something to say about that. I think he's the one that bought it as well, so it's not like I can brush him off.
That obviously, reaffirms that situation. But there we go. Maybe me and Richie can go. There you go.
Oh.
I know.
You should. Well, you can just tell him, like, if you want to win, get rid of me.
Get rid of
Phil.
You
win.
But on the topic of doubles, though, Phil, I mean, one of the things that's probably exciting to tell people about is actually that the Saturday that this podcast goes out, you and I are heading to Rapid Fire Wargaming headquarters to participate in a doubles game, right?
Yeah, a nice, friendly showdown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got our COVID kits in the post. We're going to test ourselves in the morning. We're all vaccinated now, just in case anyone cared. And, the rules seem to be that it's cool to do it. So, we're going to go down. We've been invited. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully we'll do Lookout Sir proud, and that we'll post a victory, for the podcast against the dastardly Rapid Fire Wargaming crew.
I mean, if people don't realise Rapid Fire Wargaming, they have their own YouTube channel. They do some really nice battle reports. So obviously we will be featured, with a bit of luck, on one of their battle reports. Unless we smash them so good, they will hit delete on that file as quick as can be.
Well, I feel like they'd probably take that in good jest, but I can't imagine that we would be able to just smash them up, right? I don't think that's likely. I mean, at the moment, obviously Phil's going to be rocking Krieg because, as you heard earlier, he's not painted 30, intercessors yet. But even if he did, it wouldn't mean that he would have had 1,000 points to double up with me.
No, I think I would have. Would
you?
Well, I've got Smash Captain already.
That's true. Yes.
And I've got 3 squads of 3 Inceptors.
Oh yeah, that's true. Forgot about them.
So I think that roughly is around 500-600 points.
Just for them.
especially if I take the plasma variant on one squad, because I've got one squad magnetized up, so I can do that. So yeah, I think that's about 600, and then I think 30 intercessors is about 600 as well, or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Especially when
it's a terrible 1,000-point army, but I mean,
Well, yes, of course it is terrible, but it's a good baseline infantry to like build out the rest of my army. Basically.
Yeah, of course. It's the bedrock of a fine army. But no, we're going to go Forge World-tastic, aren't we? I'm going Custards, and you're going to go Krieg, right?
Yeah, well, we could have still gone Forge World if you were going. What was it?
Blood Ravens.
Blood Ravens. Yeah, so that was the other option.
Yeah, I mean, it's still on the cards. I think I'll bring both armies and then and take it from there. Have you decided what's going in this Krieg list of yours yet, Phil?
Well, no, because I was sort of listeners of the podcast will realise I firmly decided that I wasn't going to play Krieg not ever again, but until at least the new Astra Militarum Codex came out, because I'm like, they're just bad. However, I'm now potentially going to eat my hat, because I'm going to run Krieg for the first time with the new rules, maybe even some of the Legends rules, because they're going to be quite cool about us rocking some Legends stuff. So might do that. So yeah, I've actually got to work out what I'm going to take. It's probably going to be some engineers and some Hades drills, maybe some Death Riders to actually see if they're good or not. Potentially some Grenadiers. And if I want to take something that's worth taking, it'll be like a Demolisher Tank Commander or something.
Yeah, Demolisher Tank Commander seems like a good way to go.
But they're just
the Death Riders,
they're the go-to auto include, it seems, because they're just crazy number of shots.
The Death Riders feel like they should be all right as long as we're using them as meat shields. They're not going to do a lot of punching, but who knows? I mean, they've got lots of claw attacks, haven't they, with their clawed horses?
Yeah, so, but Haughty Clip-Clop attacks always do pretty well, although now no longer at weapon skill 3+, it's at 4+, so maybe not as good as it used to be, which will be the interesting thing, I think. Like, they've got some really good defensive buffs, but their attacks have gone down unless you take the command squad version, and then their weapon skill's gone down, so maybe they're not going to be that good.
Have you got any Imperial agents in your aspirations? You're going to bring any Inquisition?
I could. I know you're taking Inquisition as well, potentially.
Well, I was going to take one. I was going to take Hector. I feel like Hector is needed. I am evaluating adding or actually making a proper patrol of Inquisition to add to my Imperial army, because I just think the more and more I muck around with the ideas around Inquisition, I feel like you need some henchmen and some other fun things to really bring them to life.
The one I've been toying with, and I think, theory hammer-wise, is Ordo Minoris, which is rerolls hit and wound rolls, not just ones, it's hit and wound rolls against characters. You take a squad of acolytes that you probably load out with like plasma guns or something. Yeah. You spend some, I think, 1 or 2 CP to effectively deep strike them all. Yeah. You deep strike an Inquisitor, an acolyte. You probably take a Joricho with them as well, because
an orange monkey creature.
An orange monkey, because that allows you to get rerolls to hit or to wound, or maybe both, depending on how you roll, because it's random. But that's against other things that aren't against your ordo. So if you want to use it, it gives you more utility against just characters. But I believe, and I'm trying to think if it's a psychic power or stratagem. I want to say it's a stratagem, but I could be wrong. But there's one that allows you to target characters and with an acolyte squad and just shoot them regardless of the lookout serval. So you can make a really cool character hunting unit that can just plop down near them. Doesn't matter if they're the closest unit, because you can just pay the points and just blow characters off the table with them, which I think is a good kind of utility unit with the Inquisition.
Oh, totally, man. And what I will say as well is Hector Rex is such good value. I honestly cannot completely understand why Hector Rex is only 100 points.
Yeah, because he's like 5, I think it's like 5 points more than the Ordo Malleus in Terminator armor, but he does so much more for that extra few points.
Well, yeah, so he's 100 points, which is 5 points less than a librarian in Terminator armor. He's got 6 wounds. He's strength 5 in combat because his sword is +1 strength, and he's strength 4. He's got 4 attacks, I think. Weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 3+. Can deny 2 psychic powers, cast 2 psychic powers, and his sword is like a relic power sword, so it's like flat 2 damage.
So
AP -3.
flat 2, -3 +1.
Yeah.
Plus on a roll of if it just successfully wounds a demon, it does an extra mortal wound.
Yes, yeah. He also can ignore mortal wounds on 5-ups, which is pretty strong. That's just part of his like war gear and his armor and all that stuff.
His Sanctic shield.
So yeah, I mean he's monstrosity. Oh, and he's got a storm shield essentially. The Sanctic shield gives him a 4-up invuln and adds +1 to his 2-up armor save. So he's got a 1-up armor save all the time.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, he's literally 5 points more than an Ordo Malleus Terminator, who, while he's also a psychic, I guess the only benefit with him is he's got a bit more utility in terms of the weapon loadout he could take.
Yeah,
because I've had an idea of making my own Ordo Malleus Terminator. I think that's more thematic than my Lady Greyhorn with her demon host to go alongside my Minotaurs. As much as I'd like to rock her, I think she's a good guard Inquisitor, whereas a guy in Terminator armor is much more suited for my Minotaurs. So I've got an idea brewing around in my head to do, I want to say his name's Garrus. He's like a new Stormcast Eternal one. The one that's doing like the hero landing that they, from Black Library, that they released. Yeah. So I think if you take the weapons out of him and then put in a model on his base, so it just looks like he's punching a guy, and then add a psi cannon onto his shoulder, and then, I think that his armor is really cool. I think if you paint it black with some gold trim, it'll look like a pretty sweet Terminator Inquisitor.
I need to do some reading on Solomon Locke. I've not actually looked into whether he's actually any good still. He was very good for a while.
I think if he was still good, Richie would have told us, because he's got that model and that's the Inquisitor he used to run. I think he falls foul of Eisenhorn's sort of style Inquisitor, where they don't have an invuln save, and it's like, why would they're like the only ones that don't have an invuln save? It's like, why? It's like, and I believe they're both psychers as well, so you can't even in the fluff give them some measly excuse for an invuln. Yeah. It just seems really weird. So I think Eisenhorn's got like a 5-up, feel no pain, but it's like that's not quite as good as an invuln.
No. But anyway, regardless of all that, I'm looking forward to throwing dice with the guys from Rapid Fire on the weekend. It'd be good to see Phil in the flesh again for the first time in 7-8 months or whatever it's been, right?
I'm trying to think, actually. I can't even remember when we last. Oh no, you came over to Oxford to game in the game store, didn't you?
Yeah, and that would have been like September.
Yeah, that would have been a while ago.
Yeah, that would have been September of 2020, mate. September, maybe. No, it can't have been October, because the wheels started falling off again in October, didn't they? So yeah, it must have been September.
Yeah, it was still sunny.
Summery,
summery. So it would have been.
Well, it could have been August, crikey.
Might be. Yeah,
could have been. Jeepers.
What are you thinking about taking for your custodes or?
Oh, my custard. Well, so my custards, it's a relatively straightforward list. It's a shield captain with a guardian spear, and the relic that gives him a 3-up invuln, because I didn't have the points to pay for the storm shield, and you can't have a storm shield and a guardian spear anyway. But I didn't have the points to pay for the storm shield and the sword and the misericordia all in. So I was just like, I ain't got the 15 points in the army, but I'll just give him a 3-up invuln. And the way the model is modeled, it's modeled on the olden days when you could have a spear and a shield. So yeah, that's my workaround. I go, oh look, there he is with his spear and his shield, and he plays like that, although he doesn't technically have a storm shield. And I'm gonna use him as like what are they called, solar Solar Watch, whatever, the one that gives them +1 movement for the Warlord trait. So basically, you can advance further and move quicker and all the rest of it, make them a bit more snappy. So I got him, and then I've got 5 Custody Guard with Guardian Spears. So that's them. And then I'm going to have the Contemptor Dreadnought with the Sword and Shield and the Contemptor Dreadnought with the Spear. But I can't remember what one of them's called, the Gladius, I think.
Yeah,
and the other one's called something like a Gladius. I can't remember. I will need to remember the names for later on. And then I'm also going to take one of those big grav tanks with the big guns on them.
Oh, that'll chestnut, yeah.
Yeah, the old big tank with big gun scenario. The what's it called? The Caladius grav tank. And the Achilles is the name of the dreadnought as well. It's all coming back to me. The Achilles dreadnought, Caladius, whatever it is, grav tank. The dude with the sword and shield, and then Hector Rex, who will be my Imperial agent.
Nice.
Unless, of course, I decide to swap that out for a Vindicare assassin.
Well, I was going to say assassins might be the other way to go, rather than Inquisition for me. I think the problem with the Inquisitor, because I've not run them in a while, it's difficult to remember the rules for them, especially with my Eisenhorn, who then gets a demon host, because that demon host gets a bunch of extra, it's like +2 to most of its stats.
Yeah.
Although it's super fun. I don't think it's that good, but it is fun. But the other option is to go for like an Eversaw assassin, I guess.
Well, you bring an assassin. You bring an assassin. I'll bring the Inquisitor that brings it all together. Hector Rex has basically gone, hey, come on, you Krieg, and an assassin and Custodes somehow, because he's well important. Yeah. Let's go mess up whatever it is that Tom and Phil bring. Phil being the other guy from from Rapid Fire Wargaming. Not you, Phil.
No. I think there's a fun list almost, or not, I don't know, fun for us, maybe not fun for them, where you can do like a real CP denial list. So you take the, I would say, Calidus assassin, where it costs them extra CP for their first turn, I believe, and then you can spend another CP to make that happen on the second turn. And then I'm just trying to think which Inquisitor it is. It's the one with the double-headed eagle, I think. Oh, is it him? It's either a specific Inquisitor or it's a stratagem where you can make one of their... I think basically when they spend a stratagem, you can nominate it to cost an extra CP.
Isn't that Agents of Vect?
There's an inquisitorial version of it where you can go, that one just costs you an extra CP. I think I'm trying to remember the name.
It might be Inquisitor Cortez.
Yes.
Cortez?
Yeah.
Because he has agents, but before the agents used to tell him when someone was going to deep strike in front of him, whereas now I guess
it's a spy network he's got. Let me just read it out. So when an enemy unit is on the battlefield, so he gets two abilities. If an enemy unit comes and gets set up as reinforcements, you can select a unit within 6 inches of him to shoot as if it's the shooting phase. In addition, plus once per battle when your opponent uses a stratagem, this model can use its spy network. If it does, your opponent must spend 1 additional command point to resolve that stratagem, or else it has no effect on the command points spent on that stratagem and considered not to have been spent. And you can't use it on stratagems before. So I almost like the idea you could double down and just make your opponent spend loads of extra CP that they really don't want to on either the same stratagems, because you double it down with Calidus at the same time, so it's costing them 2 extra CP, or just on a different stratagem.
Devious, mate, devious. Ooh, but I like
the Inquisition all over.
Well, exactly. I do own, unsurprisingly, Inquisitor Cortez, but I haven't actually taken the time to paint him. So, because there was a time where he was in every army, because he was an auto-include 100-point model that you just go yep, in he goes, because he was amazing. These days, not so much. But
talking of things that aren't painted that I would actually like to take is las cannon sponsons on my Lehman Russ, because it's in the Legends book. Yay!
Yeah,
I think it would be quite fun. Because it's novel and
have they told us what they're taking yet, Phil? Are you list tailoring on me here?
No. Well, I think they've said one of them's going to take knights and the other one's going to take I think it was chaos demons. I think. Yeah.
Well, maybe we better get some las cannon sponsons on those tanks, mate.
Well, but I was thinking about it. If you're going to pay the points, surely multi-melter on the sponson is just the way to go, and they're like official matched play. But
I feel like that's probably the flavour that we should go for. We're going to need you to have a few more bodies in the list if we're going to be up against demons as well, though. I'm going to need some meat shields.
To protect your super durable army.
Yeah.
You go over there, die for the Emperor. Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Come on now.
Thanks, Commander Phil, for doing your job.
Yeah, exactly. Come on now, Commander Phil. Get your stupid peons over there, and then you tire them out, and then the custodians will just come in and just be like, bloop, all dead.
And then be like, victory for the Emperor.
Exactly. And then they'll, murder all the custodians for some heresy-related reason. Not custodians, sorry, a Krieg for some heresy-related reason, I'm sure.
Quite likely.
No, I'm excited for it, though, man. I think that's going to be fun. And it's cool to think. And again, I don't want to sort of be too blasé about it all, but it's exciting to think that, after everything that's been going on, that we might be returning to being able to play games again and really kind of embrace that part of the hobby that we all really love. And that was the basis of this podcast from the beginning. Was we were always going to Warhammer World events. We were always going to events in general. We were just really engaged with that side of things, and we liked this as a kind of compendium to what we were doing, which was going out and playing at Warhammer World events and just broadly engaging with that aspect of the hobby. And not having that, I mean, I'll be honest, at first it made coming up with ideas for content really difficult out of the gate, because we're like, well, we normally just talk about our plans for this upcoming GT event or something, but now we've had to actually make it a bit more generalized, which I think has actually probably been to our benefit, if I'm honest. But
I mean, I imagine I'm sure people did enjoy it, but there have been episodes that are like 6 hours long where we each individually talk about how our games went at a GT or an event at Warhammer World. That is a bit lengthy, so maybe it's best that they are consigned to the history books. And anything else going forwards is a bit more succinct.
I would hope so. I feel like the days of doing like blow for blow, tournament recaps is probably behind us. But at the same time, I think there will be a time and a place for them, right? Hopefully, and I'm excited. I'm excited for starting to get back out there again. As long as obviously continuing to behave responsibly and so on. But trying to sort of take advantage of the fact that it seems like, at this moment in time, that things are as safe as they potentially can be, and that we're just gonna hopefully start to get back to something until they tell us otherwise. I guess that's the way it goes, isn't it, Phil? Until they close the door again, put us back in the cupboard.
I know.
Back you go. Back you go. But no, I mean, otherwise, I don't know. I mean, the only other thing I was going to talk about is so right now, one of my other projects is like, I got a bunch of different projects on the go. I mean, it's terrible from a hobby perspective at the minute. Today, I was building more Terminators for my Dark Angel army, because I know, right? Who would have thought? But the main thing, and I sort of really kind of come to realize, the thing I want to focus on is I want to focus on starting to build up a more, consistent collection of Craftworld Aeldari units ahead of whenever that book will drop. And what I'm essentially doing is looking at the lineup of products and thinking to myself, right, okay, what isn't going to change when, the new book drops, like looking at the old Aspect Warrior line, I'm not going to be going out of my way to paint a load of Striking Scorpions or Dark Reapers or Shining Spears or Warp Spiders, because those kits are old. And as we've seen with the earlier release of Banshees, it seems logical that these aspect warriors will potentially be updated soon. So I'm not really investing in building up that stuff.
Do you have those models, but you just like, I'll just consign them to the box or the bin, as opposed to...
I would never consign them to the bin, but yeah.
No, but I mean, are you just not going out of your way to buy them because that would seem maybe a slightly foolish investment? If you think there's going to be new kits coming.
Yeah, so I've got old like versions of those kits, and I still have them, and they're painted in all sorts of mishmashes of color schemes. But what I'm really aiming towards is trying to start to build some uniformity. So yeah, the things I'm not going to massively focus on at the moment is those older sculpts that I feel like are probably going to get updated. So like I'm not going to be painting new warlocks or farseers, although to be fair, the farseer kit is probably good because obviously the farseer on jet bike and the plastic farseer probably still works and the spirit seer, but the old metal warlocks, you know, like I've got to hope that some new warlock kits are in the works. Although I got to be honest with you, Phil, I keep looking at the new cow elves from Fantasy or Age of Sigmar.
The Lumineth realm.
The Lumineth, yeah. And they've got a unit of hammer-wielding cow guys that I keep looking at thinking that would make a beautiful squad of warlocks, because all you have to do is like do a head swap and a weapon swap on them, you know, give them like the relevant weapons, and you would very, very quickly have a really beautiful squad of warlocks. And I think the perfect head swap for them is the Spirit Seer from the Crimson Hunter / Hemlock Flyer kit.
Okay.
So there's the Crimson Hunter / Hemlock Flyer kit obviously comes with a pilot, and that pilot can either be a Spirit Seer or a Crimson Hunter or Crimson Hunter Exarch. And the Spirit Seer is like this glass domed kind of like helmet that looks really cool. So I am really tempted to buy some of those guys and then see if that helmet fits in there perfectly to create a really kind of unique looking unit of warlocks. Yeah. But it is one of those things that I'm sort of anxious to do it, because I bet I'll do it and then they'll go, and here's a fantastic squad of warlocks, and you'll be like, oh, they're so beautiful.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I don't necessarily mind it. It's like for Mordheim, sort of November, December time, I was like, I'm going to make myself a vampire warband. And pretty much as soon as I finished, or while I was finishing making off my vampire lord, they basically announced a sort of either a female or a very feminine vampire in armor that looks similar to the one that I had kind of converted up from the one of the Sisters of Battle, the special Black Library one, where she's like jumping down. So yeah, in a way you could go, oh, that's really disappointing because I could have just bought that one kit. But I ultimately think having a converted unit is so much more sort of satisfying to have. So yes, they might come up with a replica kit, and if you just want to save yourself some time, that's the way to go. But ultimately, if you're going to do the conversion, you're going to have this beautiful squad that people are going to go like, well, that's really cool. So I would almost be like, if you think it's going to be good or look good, just do it, because ultimately it's your unit. It doesn't need to look like the official Games Workshop one if they do later on create that kit.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. I think that's the thing. I'm just looking at the kits that are there at the minute and just thinking to myself, I want to paint 9 nice looking jet bikes, because at the moment my collection of jet bikes were painted super quickly for events. So I'd like to actually painstakingly go through and, you know, really kind of do a good job on them and be like, cool, there's 9 jet bikes that I own, you know, magnetize the weapons so as I can switch between shuriken catapults, shuriken cannons, and scatter lasers, because, you know, Games Workshop are going to change it so as the current idea of what's good isn't going to be good at all.
Yeah. Whatever's rubbish will probably be good, and whatever's good will probably be mediocre or average.
Yeah, because I'll be like, oh, you know, these scatter lasers aren't really doing the business. And then they'll be like, yeah, scatter lasers, heavy 8. And you're like, flipping egg. All right, fine. More scatter lasers then. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But like, just do a few things. And then the same thing with like Wraithguard. Wraithguard aren't going anywhere. It's a gorgeous kit. But again, looking at things like, I don't know, Wraith Blades with 2 swords. No one's rocking Wraith Blades with 2 swords because they're not nearly as good as the version with the Invun and the axe. So, stuff like that. The War Walkers, I think they're gorgeous kits. It'd be great to do a really good job on them. Yeah, just a bunch of stuff that's out there at the minute that I feel like if I took the time and I painted it up nice, I will, reap the benefits in the future. Much like what you've done, Phil, with the Minotaurs, where you've put in the hours and you've created your baseline. I feel like I need to do that again for Elder, because my problem is all my Elder armies are smorgasbords of different competitive builds that I created for different purposes, and they were all painted quickly. Whereas I feel like I need to find a color scheme that I just want to keep doing things in and create a more uniform force,
So you not just going back and sort of touching them up, but you're going to completely repaint them. So you're going to like strip them and repaint.
It depends really. So in the case of like the jet bikes, if I'm honest with you, stripping them down isn't going to do the job, because I need to basically do sub-assemblies to do it right. So at that point, it's just I'm just going to rebuy those, and I'll continue to use like the ones I've got currently. But the idea is more like I've got the stuff that's game ready that I can use that's painted quite poorly, and I can just be like, there you go. But then the idea is to actually expand and build up a collection that I just do old school, where I buy it and build it and paint it.
Yeah.
And move on to the next one.
So are you planning on doing a particular Craftworld or like a custom one to give you that flexibility?
Yeah, I'm really torn. I love the idea of metallic color schemes on Elder. They do them with Drakari quite a bit, and they look quite cool. But I've not seen too many metallic color schemes on the Elder. So it's something that I'm strongly considering. I really like the old Hyav style color scheme where it's whites and blues and metallics. So I like the idea of the robes being white. I like the idea of like, really bright metallic silver armor, and then having either metallic blues or having just really understated kind of like sky blue colors. I think that's actually a really beautiful scheme.
Yeah. I don't know if it existed, but I do remember in one of the Forge World books they've got lots of white and blue Elder, and I don't know if Forge World ever did like a unique Craft World for them like they did with like Krieg and Minotaurs and other chapters, and even Necrons. They did their own kind of Necron specific Forge World army.
Yeah, you're right. It's in the Doom of Mama. I keep forgetting what the actual name of it is, although maybe it is Mama. But yeah, so in that is very much that kind of color scheme that I'm looking at now. But again, trying to kind of do it in a more metallic style color, because I feel like the metallics are quite nice. And for whatever reason, I just find it easier painting metallics because I don't know, there's something about the metallic scheme where you can just kind of lay down the metallic colors and then do a few washes, and they actually look pretty good pretty quickly. And then you can just focus on doing some standout details in places, and that brings it all together really nicely. Just
don't do what I do and edge highlight everything, because edge highlighting metallic paints is a pain. But what you can do, I've seen one guy do it, and I think Artis Opus do a tutorial on it. You can do really good like dry brushing effects with your metals, metallics. That looks good. But yeah, on the Forge World topic, I was like, just take their name of whatever it is, and we can all be Forge World buddies with our Forge.
We can all be Forge World buddies.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it will have a fair few Forge World units in it, I'm sure.
Exactly. But then you still get the flexibility, like the Minotaurs, of just picking whatever Craft World traits you actually want it to be. But it's still like a legit, not chapter Craft World.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I am looking at the Doom of Mama color scheme that they did, and it is very much exactly what you said in terms of where I'm potentially looking at it going. But again, it's just that thing where I like the idea of it. I need to. My problem is at the moment I've got too many projects on the go. So actually, at the moment, I'm assembling a Tau army, and I'm going to finish assembling that Tau army. I'm going to spray undercoat it, then I'm going to put it in a case, and then I can use it for games. And should the day ever come that I want to use it competitively, I'll speed paint it, bash it out, or I'll get someone commissioned to paint it for me, because it's not an army I'm super passionate about. Same thing with my many different, Space Marine lists, same sort of deal with that. I kind of feel like build it, spray it, put it in a case, play it in some fun.
I think Tau's one of those armies you can really speed paint quite efficiently, because it's basically painting vehicles, and vehicles can be done really well, especially if you go for like a gritty, almost what I would call a Forge World sort of art style, which is my scale modeling. And it's like what I did with all of my tanks. So it's like, airbrush it, put some gradients on there, do some sponge chipping effects, do some like oil washes on it or something. So they're quite a dirty sort of Tau army, which is quite fitting for the Tau, obviously. But you could, I think you could paint that up quick to like a really high standard.
And that's the thing. I think that's the problem, though. It's like right now I'm on a sort of assembly kick where I'm just getting all this stuff built, so as I can just get it out of my cupboard, as it were. Just like I'd rather build it, put it in a case, have it, and then refine what's in the collection, and remove stuff that's kind of surplus to requirements and so on and so forth. And then I can focus on the passion project, which really is the Craftworld stuff. Because I know that when the Craftworld book comes out is when I will rekindle my real kind of love for more kind of competitive gameplay, because that's always the way it goes with me. It's like at the moment, the problem I've got with 9th edition is that 9th edition doesn't really have a very compelling Elder army in it other than Drakari, but I'm not a big Drakari player, so I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon. I'm going to wait for Craftworlds. But as soon as that Craftworld book comes out, I know I'm just going to dial into it and just be completely focused on it. So why not, take the time now that I've got it to actually build up a collection of things that I'm happy with, that are painted to a good standard, so as I can then use those in games going forwards. And maybe some units in my collection won't live up to those same standards if I paint these guys to a good standard, but I hopefully I can adapt a color scheme that will enable me to kind of do stuff that's quick, but then go back to it and build up to something a bit better. Or I can just refine a color scheme that looks good and is quick, much like how the guys in Games Workshop Studio always talk about their Space Marine armies that are just metallic but then have blue heads, and then they go, just put a bit of effort into the blue heads, and then no one cares what the metallics look like. Yeah,
exactly, because they just sort of focus in on that one bit that's painted well and got some nice edge highlights on. But especially silver I think works really well with just a wash on it, and that's all you need.
So that's the logic, is do something like that, but do it for Elder. Although I do keep looking at the grey and orange color scheme that people do, and I'm like, oh god, that is pretty. You seen the grey and orange Elder?
No, it just makes me think of Paulie's Drakari. That's sort of more, that's more black and orange, I think, than grey.
Yeah, I forget what those guys are called, but they're a relatively nice looking color scheme for the Craftworlders. But no, that's it really. So I want to get back on the Elder bandwagon ahead of when the book drops, because with the way Games Workshop are doing the releases, you just don't know. It could be the end of 2022. It could be the end of next week. I don't know. I don't know when these guys are going to just appear, but I can safely assert it's not going to be for the next few months, because they didn't even tease them at Warhammer Fest, and we've still got an Orc book, a Sisters book, a Mechanicus book, a Grey Knight book that was teased, although obviously they didn't tease the Grey Knight book, but they teased Grey Knights, and a Thousand Suns thing that was teased. So we're at least 5 books away from
that's true,
Craftworld Elder appearing. So so I feel like this is the time to focus in.
Well, that's good because hopefully I'll at least have a playable Minotaurs army by the time Astra Militarum come around, and I can swap back. So yeah,
it's gonna be exciting, though, man. I just can't wait to see what they're gonna do with Craftworld. I feel like it's gonna be. I just looking at what Drakari have. It's gonna be good.
Well, I think that's the thing. Everything seems mad good. I mean, I don't know if you want to segue into talking about some of the AdMech stuff they've been previewing so far.
It all looks incredible. I'll be honest with you, though, I've really not bothered reading it in any extensive detail because I'm like, I'll just read it when the book comes out at this moment in time. Assuming we even get our hands on the book, because from what I'm hearing, the stock quantities are going to be real limited. So I guess we'll see how we get on that. I feel like I'm going to have to pre-order this one from actual Games Workshop this time. No more Element Games for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to drop that whole £25, and then I'm going to have to buy some extra bits just so as I don't have to pay the postage.
No, that's true. I think it's weird because obviously normally for the podcast I try not to buy books unless I really need them. But I sort of feel like AdMech, one, it might be actually good to start buying the books for the podcast sake more than anything else. But also I kind of always have a soft spot for AdMech and certain other armies. So
I mean,
might try and get it.
I have a weird problem where I buy all the books anyway because I've just fallen into that trap. But yeah, I think the AdMech books looks like it's going to have a lot of really great potential. So I'm excited for that. But I feel like we'll get to that. I feel like in a way, Phil, that's probably us having talked general hobby chit chat enough at this point. So I reckon that'll do, Phil. What do you reckon? End of the show?
Yes, let's do the end of the show.
As in, it is the end of the show. Bye-bye, Phil.
Oh, okay. Back to my box I go. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.